this because this is fun anyway.
Yeah.
Let me just make sure my stuff is still. Oh yeah, I was already muted because I was on Bloodwing, so that makes things so much easier. Hi guys, I'm still not a professional at this, and I'm not gonna like my own stream even though I'm on a different channel because that's just weird. But we were talking about cooking because you know what, I don't mind that. It is one of those things where like if I get my apartment set up, I could see myself maybe trying something. It's just like I've told Mom before, she has a better counter. She has a proper counter. I don't have that. If I were to make things with dough, I'd have to do it on my kitchen table. And that thing is, we bought it at Walmart. It's definitely not stable for that kind of thing. And it's wood. I don't really want to do it on wood, especially with dough. But she has this marble counter.
Oh, so jealous.
Right?
So jealous.
And like we spent so much time making cookies over the winter. And I mean, don't get me wrong, she was tired afterwards. She was like, I wouldn't want to do this all the time, but I can understand why you would see this as a fun activity to do every once in a while. And I told her, listen, baking is hard work, but it's therapeutic. It's very therapeutic. I mean, she doesn't have the knuckles for it anymore. Like she's got heavy arthritis in her hands because she was a secretary all her life. So I can understand why she doesn't really want to knead dough. But I told her, Mom, I'm a chef that's not in use. And I'm not, you're pretty much paying for my groceries right now. So if you want me to make you pie crust, I can come over and, once a month and make you like enough pie crust to cover you for the 4 weeks and just freeze them for you. Or if you want some bread, I can make you some bread. Like I might not be a professional baker, but honestly, it's not that hard. It really isn't. It really isn't. It's just a lot of work. It is a work thing. Like, I have worked with a little bit of yeast. I actually made my own churros yesterday, and I spiced it up by adding some cinnamon to the premix. Like before I fried it, I added the cinnamon to it, and it was really good. Like my brother was in awe that I didn't have a proper recipe. It's just that I've seen enough people do it and explain what the ingredients are, and it's basically it's a kind of pancake mix. I know it's a different technique, but like I've done stovetop doughs before. I do a lot of cookies like that too. Like sometimes I'll just, anything can be a chocolate chip cookie. Honestly. I mean, there's different versions of it too, but I've done different types of butter cookies, like, cause there's peanut butter and then there's almond butter and then there's macadamia butter. And those are expensive, by the way. You get 4.
You can actually cook.
Yeah.
I can.
Yes, that's very good. Very good life hack skills to have, essentially.
Hi, Cynic. Hi, Green Thunder, D Mighty. Hi, All You Need. Hi, Elwin. I hope you're doing better today. Well, okay today, because it's the first day after, so. How you doing, James? It's a great day of celebration. Yes, you're right. I don't know why it's a great day of celebration, but you're right. It's not yesterday, so. Yesterday was kind of shit. Yeah, I'm not going to get into that because I did that at the end of Blood Wings. But yeah, that Iranian plane crash bullshit, I'm just feeling like Canada prostrating myself again. Like, oh, just give it to me now.
And now every single news site in Canada is, let's remember the people, blah, 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 blah. Okay, first of all, yes, I empathize with their families. They lost family members. Other than that, I don't give a fuck. People die all the fucking time. I really don't give a fuck.
It's
it's all just a bunch of self-flagellation and oh god, if I don't think I have it ready. Trudeau's bullshit about it. And now they're saying, it was shot down, but maybe by accident. Sorry, there's no such thing as shooting down a plane by accident.
They do have evidence that it was shot down, though. The thing is, though,
Yeah, but possibly by accident, what did somebody slip, fall, and like fire off an RPG at a fast-moving plane?
they I think they were just trigger happy, and they just assumed it was an American plane. I think that's pretty much it. I think they didn't check, and they just shot. That's basically it, and it is still an accident.
Business as usual.
That's what makes me mad. Like, I understand that in war times, and given how hyped up things are there, that like there's going to be a trigger happy guy. But it's not just that they killed Canadians. They killed Iranians. They killed Ukrainians. They killed Swedish people. They killed children. A lot of that plane, they were children.
I mean, that's why I think it's Russia to increase the tensions. But I mean, it's just like we don't need. I mean, fine. Write your story about this person and that person, like in individual, like several page long stories about each one of the Canadian victims. And I'm just like, I don't care. Like,
yeah,
I'm glad you're memorializing them through the mainstream media or whatever, the news stories you're putting out. I just don't care.
It's one thing to hold the memorials at the schools. Like, I appreciated those stories in the videos, because they hosted some at our college, some at the Edmonton College, because a lot of those Canadians are from Edmonton. I appreciated those because that was a group thing. That was more of the community coming together to, in remembrance of friends and family. That's where it ends. At this point, I'd rather focus on, okay, let's keep the tensions down because things are already kind of heated. I don't believe they're going to go anywhere. A lot of the people I've been talking to.
As much as CNN wants you to believe it's World War III, the tensions are no higher than any other point in the last 5 years.
And
this is all prostrating by the news to make it a bigger deal than it is.
And I wouldn't be surprised if there aren't other attacks, because the thing is we're dealing with a group of people who have been, it's like Bloodwig pointed out, they've technically been at war with the U.S. since the 80s. So, they say
it's also been a war of subversion since the 50s. So, I mean, this is where I'll agree with, your Tulsies and like the most people out there in North America, in the Western world, in fact.
Yeah.
No, we don't need aggressive wars of regime change, of intervention, etc. I mean, yes, if a population, and this is something I was talking to Prospero about, was that like if you need to intervene because the populace, just using Hong Kong as a rough example, where they're screaming out they need protection from communism, they're afraid that they're going to go from a democratic state to a full communist vassal of China, then yeah, maybe we should do something about it. But as far as intervention, regime change, aggressive wars of just like no benefit, then sorry, no, there's no point. Why waste American, Canadian, and British lives over stupid stuff so that rich people can get richer?
I mean, you guys could be right, Serenity. I don't know. I mean, it's weird enough that it was a Ukrainian plane in the first place, Yeah, but like there's so many things there that are weird.
And it's not like it's not like this is a isolated incident. This kind of shit happens in that region all the time. It's just all over the news because half of the passengers, well, under half of the passengers, were all Canadian, and and yeah, I don't know. It's
yeah, like I said, it's like with all stories. I would rather wait until more time comes out and hope that somewhere down the line there are people who are willing to give real stories on it. Like, it's just in this day and age, it's really hard to hope for that and expect it to come out. They're gonna just focus on the sad part of it. And don't get me wrong, like I said, the stuff at the universities, I didn't have a problem with that because that's the community coming together to mourn family and friends. And
Mhm.
I support that kind of stuff because it is a tragedy, you know, especially with children involved. I automatically was pissed off because there was children involved. But it's still that region. You're not wrong. It's still that region. It could have been, and here's the thing, they've been threatening war with everybody around them. Ever since the general died, they've been doing that. There are so many things going on in the world right now that are messed up. Like I can't just focus on one thing, and I'd rather wait for more time to come out, for more information to come out, and hopefully for some integrity from our media.
It's interesting that Trump went the route that I've been saying they need to go with Iran, with China, with Russia, and just, you know, sanctions. Like, stop doing business with these countries. Because if the West decides that we are going to stop doing trade with these human rights abusers, these pretty much nations of terrorists, that they're going to fail. They're not going to be on the global stage anymore, and that's going to hurt them more than any armed conflict ever will. That and the United States has the power to literally push a button and eliminate top threats.
And you know what? The position they're in right now is kind of a bad time for them to be doing that anyway, because they have more than enough enemies from the inside who would welcome the U.S. to do that. You know, it's... Yet again, like,
there's not enough though, because if you go into countries like China and Iran,
I know.
the populace, the populace is really heavily indoctrinated. You know, there's only state TV. They don't have Twitter. They don't have Facebook or social media of any kind, really, outside of what the government allows to you know, and it's run exactly the way state media is. Like, everything is perfectly curated. You can't have certain opinions, or else, you know, the men in black are going to come and find you and put a bag over your head. These countries, yeah, exactly. They're scared out of their mind. I wouldn't go against a totalitarian government like that. Although I would rather die than commit terrorist acts. Whatever, these people are fucking retarded.
You want to know how I think we can bring peace to the Middle East?
Level it.
You got to send over that too. But I'm thinking that maybe what we should do is get some hockey rinks built out there and teach them all to play hockey, and then they can take out their aggression that way.
Yeah, there's that.
Because think about it. Think about it. Then we can have a true world tournament team of hockey for the Olympics.
Muhammad
Okay, guys, this is what a real Canadian should sound like, because back in like 2015, 2016, there was this story that came out about Russian boars killing a bunch of ISIS members. And I had this plot plan of like just like breeding a bunch of super pigs from Russia and then dressing them up in military gear and then just sticking them on a bunch of...
That is fantastic. We need to start a GoFundMe for that. That is amazing. Somebody start that as a GoFundMe, please.
We need some super pigs in military gear.
China's already developing super pigs.
No. They're making orcs. There's a difference.
Serenity says camels. Just use the camels. Yeah, but you know they do it to the camels, Serenity. I mean... Did you really think they limited themselves to the goats?
Yeah,
why do you think they have more than one hump? Oh, that was so bad. Why do you think they have... Oh, God. I don't even know if there are 2 humped camels anymore. Weren't they on the endangered list? I don't remember.
No, there's actually a problem with camels in Australia. They you know, because we like to move species around the planet no matter how bad they can affect the ecosystem. There are a bunch of feral camels in Australia that the other day hunters were given the green light to light up, and we're talking, you know, insane people with machine guns and shit who are going around shooting these things from helicopters.
Oh my God. They're working.
I mean, if you think about it, they're animals that are used to and evolved to survive in very sparse conditions in deserts. So when they're in a environment, in an ecosystem where there's plenty of food and water around, they're just going to gorge themselves. And with the number of camels they have, which I was surprised to see that they had so many fucking feral camels. We're talking thousands. They have to cull them now. And it's funny because, like, Jesus Christ, it's not as bad as our animals invading the United States and being pests, like the pigs, the moose, the
Murder
deer.
pigs.
Yeah, I mean, these are Canadian animals that were originally from here, but are complete and utter fucking pests. That's why North America is the land of milk and honey, because we have like all these animals. It's like, you ever gonna go hungry? No. Go out your front door and hunt a pig and have bacon for the next 2 weeks.
In all honesty, we're probably a little bit better off than Australia in that sense. Like, I mean, most of what they have are well, I mean, we have a lot of rats too. Variations of rats.
Yeah, Cynic. I mean, you guys do have deserts. I'm not saying you don't, but there's so much less desert than there is in, I don't know, the Middle East, where it's just oceans of desert. And there's still a lot more biodiversity in your deserts, just like in North American deserts. So they can gorge themselves and they can keep reproducing. And since there's no real sort of like natural predators, because they're not from that environment, it's a weird situation. I mean, I hope you bagged a few camels today, Cynic.
I hope they taste good on a barbecue.
Well, they got one going on right now.
Right?
Pull out your weenies and marshmallows, boys. Might as well enjoy it while it lasts.
Yeah, some of that's been really horrifying. But like I said, it's one of those things where like, oh, it's climate change. I'm like, no, it's probably because you guys haven't been doing your industry properly for like 30 years, like they've said, and you have crazy people running around who believe in climate change. So crazy people have a tendency to cause shit. And shit happens in dry season too. Could have just been a fire strike. It just happens. It's still tragic. I'm glad that they're responding to it to the best that they can. We've sent them help and stuff, but
well, let's see. I mean, at the last what?
Here, right?
At last, I mean, I've been seeing reports all over the place, but last one that I saw, it was like 140 something people charged with arson.
Yeah,
and it's like, I saw another article that was claiming that they're mostly how can we put this, followers of the Book of Muhammad, and climate change activists who are like, look. They light a fire. Look, climate change fire. And it's just like, you know what? We should not, yes, prosecute these people. Let's not imprison them. Let's dump them in the heart of the wildfire. And you know what? If they survive, they get off. They've survived their own mess. But if they don't, good riddance. These people are creating large-scale ecological disasters and should be put to death.
See, this has been going on for a really long time. Like even Serenity was pointing out with Cali, it's true. They did the same thing in Cali, and it's actually is the same as Cali because they planted all those nice, pretty eucalyptus trees, didn't they? And they're like little light matches when they're on fire.
Yeah, exactly, Cynic. And it's not like judging whether or not something is a natural occurrence, an accident, or actual intended arson is very hard to determine. If there's accelerants used, if there's there's so many factors where they can just go, well, yeah, this was an intentional fire. There's no reason why this fire should have started. We have evidence to this. It's people are so stupid. You know what? Bring on World War III. Like, fuck it. People are just too stupid to keep going. Let's kill them all and start over.
Yeah, it's something I'm trying not to think about because the more I do, the more angry I get because it's just another excuse for people to pander. It's not fixing the problem. And it doesn't change the fact that a lot of species just died. Like, I mean, they're not extinct or anything, but like, I'm sorry.
Well, no, but if you are starting one of these fires, then you are a mass murderer.
Yeah.
You are a mass murderer. I don't care if it's killing people, koalas, fish, or fucking just microbes. You are a mass murderer. And if found guilty of arson on this level, on this scale, you should be put to death.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? In 10 years' time, nobody's going to be lighting fires because they're going to be like, well, I don't want to get caught and I don't want to be put to death. We have to curb this type of extremism in the bud and make sure that the repercussions fit the crime.
Yeah.
Then maybe some of these retards will fucking learn. And the ones who don't learn, who keep doing this type of shit, well, good. They'll be put to death. We don't need them in the gene pool. We've been coddling humanity and I know I'm going off on some deep, dark fucking shit right now, but we've been coddling the worst of humanity for far too long. Just fucking end it. Be done with it. I'm so sick of people complaining like, oh, but what if they're innocent? You know what? If after 10 years somebody's found without a shadow of a doubt guilty of like raping 300 women or men or whatever, or starting these fires, like, I don't care. Just get rid of them. We don't need them anymore. Stop allowing these people to live in our society anymore. Or hell, let's just make Australia great again and make it into a penal colony again. And just put all the world's like terrible people with AIDS, people who are arsons, rapists, whatever. We'll all just put them back on Australia. Let them fend for themselves. Let them actually start up Mad Max. We'll take away all their power generators, all the good people who still live there. We'll give them nice homes in Canada and the United States, and everybody else, we'll send them there. We'll let the fucking AIDS infested rapists from California all fuck everyone, and they'll all have AIDS and they'll all die.
Well, the thing is, too, is like, even if it was only 24 of them that would charge, you got to think like 24 of them all over the place going on fire at the same time during a dry season where it's going to rage out of control. Like, that's a lot to handle.
Yeah, during the dry season, a single accidental cigarette butt flick can cause a wildfire. I mean, but with these people like intentionally setting out to light these fires, it's pretty clear cut. Fuck them.
It takes the attention off of the natural ones, and that's really that's all there is to it. It just it's the same with the BC fires. Like every time they would get rid of one, there would be 3 more showing up
because people are out there lighting fires. And yes, like this kind of stuff does happen, Serenity. You're right. Like if lightning strikes, it's it's just part of the world we live in. But to add on top of that 100 and something other fires, it's just, oh god, people just get me so, I don't want to say angry because I'm not angry at them. I'm befuddled at why we allow these people to keep going. It becomes more and more like Idiocracy every day, or flagpole sitta. Only stupid people are breeding. The cretins cloning and feeding.
Last year's meme is coming true. I think it's clown world now, guys. I think that's not even a good thing to say anymore.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, kill all the clowns. I'm sorry. Again, if you're not going to work with humanity and be a part of humanity, then sorry, you don't deserve to live. And I don't mean, Grizzly fucking Adams who's had enough of society, wants to go live by himself in the mountains. He's cool. He doesn't want to be a part of society. He's cool. He's not doing any harm. It's those people who are doing harm.
Mm-hmm.
We've lost our will as the West, as a society, to fight clear and present dangers. And these people are clear and present dangers. And I would even put up like other people, like your Greta's, like your fucking what's his name? Next to your Harvey Weinsteins and everything. Line them all up against a wall and just shoot them in the head.
Oh, that line from Ricky was amazing, though. Like, Greta Thunberg's been in school for longer than most of the people in this room, and you're just sitting there like, I'm not sure who he's insulting, but it's amazing.
Yeah, that was a roast and a half right there.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I still didn't watch the Golden Globes because who gives a shit?
I
Because,
just watched his.
because
I didn't give a shit about the rest of it.
yeah, because like if you, I mean, people are so like enthralled and like, oh my god, the award shows. Did you see what happened? No, because I don't watch award shows. They're fucking retarded. Like if an award show like the Golden Globes is going to give like what 11 awards to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I'm sorry, your award show is bullshit because Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is probably one of the worst movies, and yes, we're talking Star Wars here, that I've seen in like possibly in my entire life. Like we're talking that movie was worse than shit I've seen on Mystery Science Theater 3000. Like it is fucking awful movie. God, it is worse than the new Star Wars. Like it is awful. I'm a huge Tarantino fan. I love, Pulp Fiction and Jackie Brown and all these movies. Like, but that was just utter crap, garbage. Excuse me. Yeah,
I haven't actually watched awards shows probably since I lived at home with my mom, and even then the only reason I was watching it was because she was.
Yeah, it's something that's not really most of our generation and following generations don't really care about.
But
Just
I will always watch something that takes the piss at a group of people who are superficial and think that the rest of the world needs to care about their opinions.
I think people are reading too much into that though, because A, he's a comic.
Oh, yeah.
B, it was a roast. And C, if you listen to what's going on when he's telling his jokes, like people are laughing their balls off.
Yeah.
Just because you see Tom Hanks trying to stifle a little smile or whatever, it doesn't make it a big deal. Like, yes, it was funny. I'll give it that.
Not the first time he's done the Globes. Like, I mean, it's been 4 times, and like each time he's been like, this will be the last time I'm invited to this one. So
and he's never been PC.
Yeah. He does have pocket money. That's what I like about him.
At the beginning, when he's talking about what's his name, the short little black midget dude, friends with The Rock, Kevin Hart. When he's talking about how Kevin Hart got replaced, he's, Gervais is just like, who cares? It's their loss. Kevin Hart could be a funny motherfucker, and I'm going to prove to you how, because I'm going to tell a bunch of jokes. You don't have to be such hypersensitive little cunts. Again, relating to my first point of just line them all up against the wall and shoot them.
Yeah, we got to go back to the days where like Hollywood stars were kind of like they were doing their job, but otherwise they were irrelevant. Yeah,
I mean, unless any of these stars have very specific experience in a field, like if Dom DeLuise was a firefighter for 20 years and he's talking about wildfires. Sure. Okay. Yeah. But if, I can't remember that faggot's name who was deriding Trump, the guy who does Stranger Things, the guy with the beard, the social justice nut who can't act his way out of a paper bag. No, sorry. Fuck off. I don't care. You don't do anything. You haven't done anything in your life. Just like why would I listen to Boyd E. Sanders about economics when he clearly doesn't know anything about economics? He's never even had a real job. He's forever suckled at the public teat, at the public coffers. Why would I listen to him about anything? I'm sorry, you don't have life experience. You don't have wisdom. You're just one of those know-nothing loudmouths on social media that have become all too prevalent that we all like to sit around and laugh at because you don't know anything. Hell, even like I know what I know only because I've experienced it. Anything else is just like my opinion, man.
Tell us how you really feel there.
I'm cranky. I didn't get much sleep. I'm fucking cranky.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm just laughing because it's funny. But yeah, no, like I said, I haven't watched them in years. I probably will not watch any more of it because, like, I think the only other clip I saw was like this lady from a movie that I don't know her name and I don't know the movie that she played in, but she went into this whole spiel about I'm so proud of myself because I've made choices that allowed me the opportunity to have this choice to give you my wisdom of choice. And women now have more rights to choose, but we need more rights to choose. So you guys need to vote in the future, because if you don't vote in the future, we're not going to have the rights to choose anymore. And it was so gross. It was.
Yeah.
Jesus, get over yourself.
Like, if we're just going on the number of rights you have versus the number of rights a man has, you actually have more rights. So you can fuck off.
Yeah, it was just like I said. Like, I mean, I butchered that a little bit, but that's basically what she was doing.
Yeah.
It was just. Yeah, like Ricky was the only reason that I would have watched that.
Thank you, God. Thank your manager, and fuck off stage.
Yeah,
that was hilarious. I just lost my shit at that point.
And of course, they all ignore it because, oh, Ricky Gervais, he's new money.
Never mind the fact that he probably brought them in more views, because once he was done, I guarantee you most people fucked off, except for the ones who like report on it, like who do streams on it based off of what happened.
For 3 days, that's all everyone was talking about, even in the face of what's going on in Iran and Australia and the rest of the world. Big money, big ticket news. But no, we got to listen to what the people with money have to say. It's so ironic because people are like, yeah, fuck the Hollywood elite. Fuck the Hollywood elite. Ricky Gervais is part of the Hollywood elite, you dumb fucks. He's doing a bit. The entire this entire Golden Globes thing, it's just a bit. It's all to bring attention to the Golden Globes, and people are just buying it hook, line, and sinker. Again, yes, I think Gervais's his segment was hilarious, but other than that, I just don't give a shit. Even
like
the message,
I guarantee. Like, I didn't watch it at the time. I don't have cable, for one thing. I like I said, I wouldn't have watched the show in the first place, but I've watched clips of the speech, and that's where I know it from.
Yeah, I posted the full thing in Minions Discord. But
like, even still, I guarantee you most people, regular people, probably watched that because they were like, yeah, tell him, Ricky. And then they were like, yeah, well, fuck the rest of you. You guys are retarded.
Yeah, they you know, my milkshake, I'm going to drink it up. You know, it's the public at large. You forget, like, majority of people are stupid. Mm-hmm. By all intents and purposes. That's not a judgment. That's just numbers. That, you know, have you ever heard of the bell curve? There's a certain number of like truly like dumber than mud people. There's a very small portion of people who are highly intelligent, and then there's the rest, the plebs, who are, you know, range from anywhere of like a low moderate intelligence to a high moderate intelligence, and everyone in between. And that's the majority of people. And I'm sorry, on the grand scale of things, that most of those people are just dumb. They are some of the dumbest people.
I don't even want to debate with them on that. On even in the topic with that lady. It's just another one of those things where I'm just like, yeah, you know what? You don't have to worry about that, because you know what? You're going to do whatever the hell you want to do. You know, if you want to have an abortion when you can afford to have a child because you just don't want to have a child, you go right ahead.
Right.
You go right ahead. I mean, I'm not going to think you're a good person for it, because I don't like abortion myself, but I do believe that people have the right to choose what they want to do. And, you know, if you want to do that to yourself and to a person.
I love it. I'm full. I've changed my mind entirely about abortion. I'm fully for it. You want to get an abortion tomorrow just because you hate your 14-year-old son? Get one. We have too many people as is, and again, like with the expansion of the population, there's going to be more morons than there are going to be intelligent people. It's just numbers.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a bitterness in me that kind of has to agree with you. It's one of those things where, like, I don't like the idea of attacking children because they're not really at fault for their parents being retarded. But you know what? If they want to kill off their own gene pool, and if the women want to destroy their womb, because if you don't know, repeated abortions usually have a tendency to destroy your womb,
to do bad things. Yeah.
Then you know what? Let them, because
just stop using abortion as birth control, you fuckers. There are countless clinics out there that will give you free condoms. Wrap it the fuck up. And you know what? Women, this goes for you too. Carry one with you. If you're sexually active, you're going out to clubs, whatever, and you know you're the type who, you know, no judgments. If you're the type to hook up, great, you know, be free, be sexual, but do it responsibly.
And even the ones you purchase, they're really not that expensive.
Yeah.
When you go buy condom in the box, they're not that expensive. So
I understand that, Serenity. People can get behind it. I mean, like I said, I appreciate it. I thought it was fucking hilarious.
mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, like, most people are just buying it up like hook, line, and sinker. Like, he's talking about the elite. I hate the elite. It's like, well, why? Because they're preachy assholes? No, because they got more money than me. Excuse me.
That's pretty much the only reason I dislike them. I don't even dislike all of Hollywood. I just dislike the preachy assholes. It's just like, I don't really need your opinion. And you know what? Ricky's not wrong. Most of them don't have more than a high school education. I'm not saying they haven't educated themselves outside of. Like, I don't doubt there's some people in there that probably have.
I'm one of them. I dropped out of my last year of high school because it was like, this stuff is bullshit. I went to college and I spent the first 3 years of college sitting around twiddling my thumbs because I already knew.
Ooh. We got an Epstein face.
What's that?
Oh, I was just kidding. Well, I mean, I'm not kidding, but I am kidding.
Because I already knew the material. I went to college the first time for graphic design, and I knew all the programs. I knew everything inside and out. I wasted 3 years of my life and tens of thousands of dollars for nothing, for a piece of paper to say that I could do this stuff. I was so indoctrinated into that progression of things, you know, finish high school, go to college, get a job, get married. It's like Facebook. It's like Fight Club, you know, calling up my dad. What do I do now? Oh, get a job. Like, it's, yeah. You can be just as intelligent and just as well versed in a field or whatever without going to school if you have the technical know-how already. And because I'd been, you know, I grew up in the 80s where home computing first started, so I had one of those Mac classics, and then eventually, you know, upgraded to a computer with an actual hard drive.
Peter.
Sorry,
The thing with Hollywood too, though, is like it's well known that they have like they're a circle as it is, but like they have a thought think. Like, you can't think outside of a certain realm, and we've seen that before with their conservatives side. You know, like, they get shut out of Hollywood all the time. They get shut out of shows. I mean, there's the odd guy that's still managed. Like Tim Allen's a hero at this point, you know, because he's still able to get some work.
Because his show brings in money. It brings in those eyeballs that even a socially justice inclined network, which they're not, they're just doing it for, you know, the clout. But yeah, they'll turn around and be like, yeah, well, you know, we'll kowtow because, you know, he makes us money. But yeah, apparently in the newest of the Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself narrative, jail closed caption TV erased by quote unquote technical errors. Apparently the U.S. attorneys say the jail mistakenly saved footage from the wrong cell. And it's just like, fuck up after fuck up after fuck up. And I really hope everyone involved and everyone who is a direct or indirect supervisor or manager of the 2 prison guards who are already being, you know, questioned and taken in and grilled, but everybody else, all the way up to the warden, I hope they all get fucking jail time for being complicit in the assassination of a person in their custody.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for completely fucking up like oh my God, like how anyone looks at all the facts that are coming out about this shit and saying that, who don't believe that he or who do believe that he killed himself. Like, you're so dumb.
You are so dumb.
all the the evidence is just compounding. And yeah, like you were saying, Jen, first, we'll wait a little bit, see what comes out. And sure enough, a month or two later, all this information's coming out that he didn't kill himself. Even though from the get-go, we kind of knew already he
that he
didn't kill
hadn't killed.
himself.
It was a meme in the get-go, but you know what? To be honest, I think everyone is still pushing that meme because we all kind of agree that he hasn't killed himself. And here's the thing: I find a lot of the real dummies who don't believe he killed himself are coming from the left, or at least the stubborn left that just are stupid. But overall, I've found most of the memes are coming from across the board. I'd say a lot of them are coming across the board because a lot of people that I've seen that I wouldn't.
What would be delicious if they offered the security guards and everybody who's involved like a plea deal. Basically, you'll serve a year in prison, but if you roll on if you roll on whoever orchestrated this whole thing, Clinton, the Clinton Foundation and everybody involved there, if you roll on them, we'll give you 6 months in prison and a slap on the wrist. But we want who orchestrated this whole thing because you guys are just complicit plebs. You're working people who basically didn't really have the option to say no for fear of your own reprisal, whether or not these people, they're going to kill someone in the middle of a federal prison who's national news. You think they're going to be scared about killing some prison guard's family back at home? So I do empathize with these people. If they're not going to roll on who gave the order, sorry, you're going to go to jail for 20 years. You're going to go to jail for 25 to life. I don't care. But if you're going to do the right thing and come forward with, okay, well, this person gave me the order, then they go after that person who gave you the order and keep climbing that ladder. Keep climbing that ladder and see where the money takes us. And really take those people to task. Because you know what? As much of a meme as it is, I do believe that it was the Clinton Foundation. They are fucking insidious, Machiavellian in their just insipid, like evil doings in the world.
I actually wouldn't be surprised if they didn't get assistance with it, though.
And you know what? We've known about the Lolita Express. We've known about Jeffrey Epstein for decades. And by we, I mean people at large, not just the Hollywood elites and the government elites that covered for him. We knew about this stuff. People knew about this stuff. So, a lot of these people, a lot of just regular people are just as complicit as those security guards because they knew that this shit was going on. They just didn't care enough to say anything until the news tells them to be concerned, to be outraged. Oh my God, he's a kitty diddler. Well, no shit. File that under Y for you don't say. Sorry, Ghastly, I had to.
I wonder if every guest on that island got free pizza,
Oh God. Yes, but it was pineapple.
There's a Chuck E. Cheese on every
You can have
corner,
pineapple with
just like
pepperoni.
Starbucks.
You can have pineapple with ham. You can have pineapple with bacon. You can have pineapple and beef, but it has to have pineapple on
pizza. Love pineapple on pizza. Don't fight me.
You're fucking disgusting.
I like pineapple on certain pizzas.
I like pineapple, just not on pizza. And for me, it's all about that show of dominance. Be like, you think you're gonna start eating me, you little fucking shit fruit? I'm gonna eat you. Well, I'll show you who the dominant life form is, motherfucker.
But not on pizza.
Well, since we're speaking about dominant life forms.
Oh God. Good thing I have my pants on.
Okay, so gonna let this play. Some burglar decided he was gonna break into a Taco Bell. This fine gentleman of a darker melanated skin. But because he was in a fast food restaurant, he decided he's gonna cook himself some burritos. Which, okay, you're a dumbass. Look at all the prints you're leaving everywhere, and he knows how to operate a Taco Bell kitchen. So he's worked at Taco Bell in his life. But then he falls asleep.
Wow. That is amazing.
It's amazing that he managed to have his little nap and then run away, and police are still looking for him. But oh god,
Could you imagine working there afterwards? That's just so many levels of weirdest creepy. Like, he didn't do anything to harm anyone, at least, but
no,
just like he was making himself some lunch. Okay.
Well, I mean, they say he was there initially to steal some electronics, which, okay, how would they know that if they still haven't caught him? So I'm assuming that he got away with some of the electronics.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, anybody who's been into a modern business these days, they have, flat screen TVs and computers, and
I'm sure there's a computer in the manager's office. And again, because he knew how to cook all the bagged meats and everything from Taco Bell, because everything comes in bags. Like even the diced tomatoes comes in bags of diced tomatoes. It's disgusting. Yeah, no, it's dude. I worked there when I was younger for like a week, and I couldn't handle because it was so disgusting. I'll still eat there. I just won't work there. But he knew how to do all this stuff. It's not something that any pleb, even someone with a culinary background, would be able to walk in and just do like that. So he's clearly an employee of Taco Bell at some point. Yeah, Goldilocks. Somebody's been working at my station.
Right? Somebody's been sleeping in my floor.
And he walked in, he's like, ooh, this burrito's too cold. Ow, this burrito's too hot. This burrito's just right.
Oh, that's amazing. Somebody has to make that a meme.
And then he gets the itis and he passes out. Oh boy. Oh boy. In other news, so other big news, which I think is a win for society at large, whether or not you're right or left, it doesn't really fucking matter. Remember, it's just the spin that was part of this case, but the Covington situation with Nicholas Sandman's suit against media conglomerates is bearing fruit. And in his $800 million various suits, CNN will be settling with Nick Sandman for $275 million, which, that's a whole, like, this kid is going to be set for life. And that is a metric fuck ton of money. But that is a drop in the bucket of what CNN could have paid if they went to court. The sheer amount of times that they defamed this young man and his classmates, they could have taken him to task for over 24 separate charges and claims. And Nick Sandman could have ruined CNN. I truly believe that. I truly believe that this lawsuit, if they didn't settle, he could ruin their entire company. Through this whole situation, if it wasn't for their cohorts, like MSNBC and the rest of the leftist insane media conglomerates out there, if it wasn't for them all pushing the same narratives, this would have been a good win for, ethical journalism again. But they're not going to learn their lesson. Fox, MSNBC, CNN, there's still going to be knee-jerk reaction and commentary or opinion op-eds masked as news. They're still going to do that. And I wouldn't be surprised if they still defame people, because they still do.
So I have my friend trying to join us, and he's saying he's having issues with he's trying to click allow.
Is he using a browser? And check. What browser? If he's using Firefox or whatever, tell him to use Chrome, or if he's on a Mac, tell him to use Safari. I don't know. It only works with certain browsers. I can't use it on Mozilla and have it be fully integrated into working properly. So I have to use Chrome, something I hadn't used in ever.
Yeah, I'll point that out to him just in case.
Oh, Peter, I didn't see you stop
Hi,
by.
Peter. I think I
you
did
already.
see you.
I think you said hello, and I was just like,
I'll say it. I'll say
I'm
it twice.
still in a bit of a sleepy haze, and yes, I'm very cranky today, everybody.
No, you couldn't tell.
Well,
I'm
I
gonna
mean,
leave him,
it is kind of hard to tell because I'm outspoken, but there's a difference between my outspoken,
Okay, he is on
which
Chrome.
is entirely, when most of the time it's entirely based behind logic and facts. When I'll admit I'm emotionally compromised. You can relieve me of duty, Captain Kirk. Yeah, I just rewatched that movie the other day just to remind myself just how much damage one director, J.J. Abrams, can do to some of my favorite things. Yeah, you heard me, Dax.
Wait a minute, was that the original Star Trek movie?
The very
the
first
first
one
that
from
came
like
out?
2014 or whatever by
Yeah.
Lens Flare Abrams.
Oh
my God! Oh my!
I thought you were talking about the original Kirk one.
So I watched last night something I thought was going to be a shit show, but ended up being a hilarious, emotional roller coaster of a film in Jay and Silent Bob's reboot. And I love it. I'm been a huge fan of Clerks, Mallrats Chasing Amy, Clerks 2, Jay and Bob Strike Back, Dogma, like all of Kevin Smith's great movies, not his Walruses or cop show thing with those Kevin Hart and Bruce Willis. Top Cop, whatever that fucking stupid movie was. It was an okay movie, but I mean, for the most part, outside of his Jersey sort of storyline shit, his movies are not good. But this was really, really fucking good. And the scary part is the girl that plays Jay's daughter is Harley Quinn Smith, Kevin Smith's real daughter. But she passes for Jason Mewes' daughter so well because they look so much alike. I wonder if there was a little how can I word this? Some backroom dealings between Mewes and Smith, where like Smith was like, either my genetics really suck or, I'm impotent or something. Can you knock off my wife so we can have a daughter? Because she looks exactly like Jason Mewes. There's got to be some funny business there. And both Kevin Smith and his wife are both brunettes, and she's a stark blonde. It's getting a little suspect there, if you know what I'm saying.
Maybe they just mixed baby batters together and hoped for the best.
I'm not going to judge somebody's kink. That they're they're hetero life mates. You never know.
Do you have your Discord open functional? He just showed me a clip of what screen he's on. I've never seen that one before, but I'm wondering if he's just clicked too soon.
Yeah, that's a normal thing. He didn't click allow on his browser pop-up.
Okay.
That's probably why.
The browser's got to initialize his camera and his microphone or else it won't start. But then he can turn off the microphone. They just have to, the camera. They just have to recognize that there's stuff there to communicate with or it won't let you log in.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, it's just you're better at explaining that stuff than I am. So
but yeah, back to Covington stuff. So apparently there's still many suits that need to be dealt with. We'll probably be seeing the settlements in near future. NBC, Washington Post, etc. So good on you, young man, because you've literally won the lottery because somebody fucked with you and the media blew it out of proportion and destroyed your character. You hit the jackpot.
for doing nothing more than standing there and existing. I wish I could get that. I guess I'm not white enough.
Not crippled enough.
I'm crippled.
Yeah, but not enough though, because you haven't fallen down in front of somebody's driveway yet.
Yes, I have. Don't you tell me what
Yeah,
I...
but enough to be for a lawsuit is the bigger question, because
Yeah, I just haven't
all
gone
those
that route.
commercial ads.
Yeah. In other news, somebody donated a rare sealskin parka to an Edmonton Goodwill store. And people are like, it belongs in a museum. The coat's from the fucking 70s. Like 60s, maybe at latest, to the 70s. It handmade by Eskimos in Northwest Territories. Like, a big fucking deal. It doesn't belong in a fucking museum. It's just a coat. Yes, it's sealskin. You know what? They still hunt seal. They still do these kinds of things. I'd buy it. I'd buy it because it's a cool looking parka. But
does she know that the people who make those, like, they exist because they make those? It's almost like they survive on those animals or something.
Yeah, it's like it's literally their bread and butter. Feeds them, clothes them, fuels their fires.
Making clothing out of the skin is actually kind of a way of showing respect to the rest of the animal, because it's the one thing that's left behind,
the main reason people are like, it belongs in a museum, is because to those that aren't in the know, we have very overreaching protectionist laws in place that say, basically, if you aren't part of this community, and in this case, it would be the Inuit community, then you are not allowed to sell or resell their goods, which is total bullshit. If I buy goods from somebody just because they're a fucking Eskimo, doesn't mean I don't have the rights, the same property rights to that property I just bought that anybody else does. Let's not mince words here. It's a racist law. And I understand that they want to preserve their culture, whatever. You know what? That's on them. That's not on us. You know what's on me? To preserve my culture and aspects of it that I want to or don't want to. It's up to Jen to preserve aspects of her culture she wants to or not. It's not up to the government to say, you have to protect your culture. We have to protect this culture, that culture. No, because then that becomes an unequal society where we treat everybody as their own separate protected groups, except for obviously white men. And thus nobody becomes a protected group. You're just now turning certain other groups, white men, into the other group, the outside group. Even though they're the majority, they are now the group to be ridiculed, subjugated, shut up and don't speak and don't be seen.
So kids of the early 1930s.
Mm.
You should be seen but never be spoke to.
I guess. In the 30s?
Yeah.
You mean children should be seen but never heard?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Sorry, my brain. I gotta go tinkle, so I'll be right back. That's probably why my brain. It's actual thinking cells.
Ooh. Our good friend, the boy with no brain, and no, we're not talking about Justin Trudeau, but our good friend of the show, Noah Wall, the boy who was born with 2% of his brain. It eventually grew to 80%. I misshared it. Sorry. Because I want to play some of the audio. There we go. He was not expected to live. His brain miraculously outside of the womb started to grow, made it up to 80%. He's got spina bifida and a couple other conditions that go on with this sort of thing. But, he's doing well.
He's doing real well. And if Jen will bring up the video, I'll play it.
Yeah, just sorry. I'm just trying to.
Because as we go into the video,
Because I had 2% of my brain.
Wow.
he's now fully communicative.
And then it grew to 80%.
Right.
What a happy young lad. Like, oh my God, it's crazy
Yeah.
how humans, like, yeah, he's going to have some serious
Considering
disabilities his
obviously
entire
what we were
life,
told when
but
we were
to still come back from what was certain death,
and the fact that, you know,
to bounce back and still develop and like, just, it's, I like, you can tell it's got me speechless that through medical science and through the triumph of the human condition, this kid is going to lead a more or less normal life, even though after he was born, they were like, this kid's never gonna, like, he's not gonna live more than a couple of weeks. It's crazy. This guy deserves life for just the sheer will of his spirit alone than most of the people I was talking about earlier.
No, a shelf. A shelf?
A shelf.
A level shelf. Not a wobbly shelf.
Not a wobbly shelf. He's so cute. What a fucking trooper. Like, Noah, dude, you are fucking rocking it, and you're not even like a teenager yet. Like, what the hell, dude? This kid is insane. He's my new BFF. I don't care. Hit allow, and it's stuck. Yeah, that sounds like a whole lot of personal problem.
Oh,
but
okay.
I'm sorry. So there's a bit of an update in the Harvey Weinstein court trial stuff that's been going on. He's been threatened with jail for repeatedly using his cell phone in court. Why the fuck does he have a cell phone? He's a dangerous human being. He should not have a cell phone, first of all. Second of all, do you really think, in the eyes of all that the charges that he's undergoing, that he really is fearful of a cell phone? And, I thought that there would be a whole bunch of more charges than what's going on. I think he's got like 5 charges from between like 2 women or whatever in this current court case. Hopefully the proof comes to light, because I believe that a lot of his sexual wheelings and dealings in Hollywood were perfectly legal and perfectly consensual. We're talking about adult women who were coerced, which isn't against the law, to have sex with him or engage in some form of sexual activity with him. And you know what? It's a pay-to-play thing. And that is why Hollywood has been so complicit in it, because they're like, yeah, we don't care because it's not illegal, technically, but it's also not really like legal. But it's something that happens because, you know what? Women with sexual power wield it one way, men with sexual power wield it another. And it's usually just to get their dicks wet. And he's an ugly, ugly motherfucker. I know, Jen, we talk about how in his younger middle years, Trump wasn't a horrible looking man. He's not good looking, but he's not horrible looking. Harvey Weinstein is a horrible looking, ugly chud.
Yeah,
like he gives ugly a bad name.
Yeah, I don't know what to do to help Teph. It's just one of those things. I'm not computer savvy. I don't know.
I don't understand why it's not working. There's got to be something going on with an extension or something in his settings that's not that StreamYard isn't kosher with.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I wish Will was here, because like Will could take him aside, because like they know each other too, and like help him out. But it's just I'm not really the computer savvy one in this room. I'm usually the one asking for advice. And it's the one time like I appreciate my brother, because he's at least more computer savvy than I am, which is still something. You know what I mean?
Jiggle the cord.
Like, I mean, make
Turn on
sure
the
your ad block and all that shit is all disabled. Tab suspender, whatever in Chrome. Make sure that when you start up Chrome, it's able to read your microphone at the very least and camera if you have one. Make sure all that's turned off or on respectively. And I don't know.
His computer is practically new. Huh.
Yeah, I mean, StreamYards is supposed to be idiot proof, I guess. Yeah, I don't know him, so I'm not going to start bad mouthing him yet, especially since he doesn't have a voice to sort of defend himself. So,
Okay, yeah, I'm sure our chat can help you too, because like I said, like I know more than enough people that follow me that I've asked questions of, because I know computers are all different, and I haven't had a new computer in probably 9 years now, because that's how old my computer is.
Have you tried resetting your router, maybe?
have you tried plugging it in? Is your microphone plugged in? Jen, if you wanted, you could jump into a Discord channel and have him just jump into a Discord channel with you, so we can all just listen to him on through here. I mean, he won't be able to see the StreamYard screen, but we'll be able to hear him through you. I don't know.
Yeah, and then he could always watch the YouTube stream itself for interaction.
Anyway, let him deal with that. So, in updated news, with the U.S.-Canada border bullshit that I've been talking about. So yesterday we talked about how there's going to be DNA samples taken and put on file for people who are turned away at the border. Could be anything as serious as suspected terrorism to anything as benign as, oh, I don't like your face, so I'm not going to let you in the country, from a border control agent. But the newest is that, more and more people, and the increase is still going up, for no explanations given to Canadians attempting to enter the United States. And we're talking, Canadian citizens who either want to work or move to or get work visas, or hell, even just visit the United States. In parts of, BC, in the Michigan-Ontario border, they've been highly, they've just been dicks about it.
Is this true? Yes, it's true. This man has no dick.
And for literally no reason, no probable cause, no reason at all, no reason given, no reason justified as to why they're turning away people at the border. It's ridiculous. And not only would I like to see this change, but the border control branch of the American government should start investigating some of these officers. And they have a clear set of guidelines that they have to adhere to, and maybe change the notion that if you just get a bad feeling or just because you're having a bad date, no, you can't just turn people away just because. At least not Canadian citizens, because it's going to start taking, it already has been taking its toll, but it's going to start taking its toll even more to your conjoined brothers to the north. Like, already since 9/11, travel to the United States from Canada has lessened dramatically, because it used to be the most free border in the world, the largest free border in the world between two major countries. But now it's just like any other border. It's just as bad as the US-Mexican border. In fact, Mexico will let the Americans in.
Which is something we still do. We don't exactly turn them away.
Yeah, we don't have the most stringent border controls, but again, it's not like it's these illegal or people without, American or Canadian citizenship. It's literal Canadian citizens who are just
Yeah.
being turned away for no reason, and it's really getting tiresome. Come on, America! Like, I understand the need for border control, guys. I'm with you, but your major problem is down south. Our major problem is your border, not your problem. You have people who are illegals escaping your country coming here. So we're the ones with the problem, technically, in Montreal and in Ontario. But at the same time, if somebody comes to your border through a footbridge, through a car bridge, port of entry with their Canadian passport, you should just let them in. I don't understand why they're being so douchey about it.
I don't know. Maybe it makes them feel better because they're turning away white people just the same as they are. I mean, even though we're mixed culture, for the record, you could be.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past some of these people because there are individuals, excuse me, who are working from some form of personal bias. Why do I have to? As soon as I start light up a joint, like I have to start talking. But record number of female film leads, U.S. study suggests. Oh God, I'm slow on this.
Oh my God, who the hell cares?
Yeah, it's forced diversity. Obviously, we see the stories, we see the people talking about it. It's a forced narrative, a forced drive. Let's get more whammons in movies and TV. It was pretty much parody. But yeah, the leading roles, because people like their action schlock for a long time, went mostly to men because that's more believable. It's more believable to think of John McClane kicking terrorist ass than Brie Larson, than Angelina Jolie. I'm sorry, it's not believable. When you have somebody like a Sigourney Weaver coming against the Queen Alien in a fucking mech suit, then sure. Like, what's her name in Emily Blunt in Day After Tomorrow, or whatever that movie with Tom Cruise was. Yeah, it's a little bit more believable when they have like huge power armor on. Sure. And not to mention, it's representative of success. If a certain demographic of people are doing more successfully, both critically and from the movie-going public at large, then that's no fault of the demographics. It's just what people want to watch. People want to watch good, well-written films. It doesn't really matter who the fucking lead is as long as it's believable.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. I mean, movies are more so used to escapism nowadays, where it's just like for a few hours, just to turn off your brain and not worry about your woes. But whenever you cross path it into your entertainment like it is now, it's just like,
yeah, that forced diversity never works. I mean, they still scream, even though Black Americans, Black Westerners, well, let's stick with America, represent about 20% of Hollywood as far as leading roles. Black women are 20%, even though they're like 6% of the population. That's overrepresentation. That's that forced diversity I was telling you about. Like, I don't even know how. Aquafina. Oh, just like the water. That stupid cunt won a Golden Globe for their farewell. Never heard of it, and will probably never, because it was probably some piece of shit social justice schlock. the Cynthia Erivo who played Harriet Tubman in some new thing. They were pissed off because she didn't win an award. It's like, well, you know what? Who cares? Awards are garbage anyway. They're just, Hollywood's milky masturbatory gorilla grunts to one another.
What?
And
masturbatory gorilla grunts to each other. That is fantastic. That
because they all sit around, they go. That's all these award shows are. So first of all, they're bullshit. Second of all, the reason why films are well received across the board, and we're not talking about your critics, your mainstream media critics, because they are just as useless as the awards. We're talking about people, the movie going public at large, whether or not they're stupid or not. Yes, they will have, even though the first Avengers movie is a poorly constructed, not good film, it was well received by people, because even people who are critical of film, like myself, who will turn around and say Avengers is not a good movie, can say, but I enjoyed it because I can turn off that critical part of my brain and just sit there and enjoy the movie. And what's interesting is that this study of women in film will take a movie like The Avengers, who, you know what? I don't care what you say. There are two lead characters there, Chris Evans and I was about to say Tony Stark and Robert Downey Jr. Those are your leads of the movie. You don't get to take Avengers and say, oh, it had women in the lead role. No, it didn't. I'm sorry. Yes, it had supporting main characters like Scarlet Witch, like Miss Marvel. And you don't get to claim that as a women-led role film. That's not how these things work. It's an ensemble film with two main characters.
No, that's a fair point.
That would be, Jack. It would be hilarious, but I think at this point it does have enough steam. The only thing that could really derail it now is if there's a substantial amount of corruption in the legal system. That is how people are going to get away, because money's going to find the right people in the legal system. Obviously, they're going to be hiring some really good lawyers should some of the people involved on the lower rungs keep their mouth shut. Again, for fear, whether it's money or for fear that reprisal against their families. Like, we know how this shit works because we see it in film and TV, and art imitates life, imitates art. So yes, I fully do believe that there are people behind the scenes who are going to pay off the right people, who are going to get these people the right lawyers to keep their mouth shut, who, yeah, even though they might go to jail for 10 years for being complicit in criminal negligence, they'll get out of prison multimillionaires later. Years later. Like, so, oh well, at least the rest of their family is going to be well taken care of while they're in prison. And as we all know, people in the industry, people who are security guards, people who are police, they go to special prisons where people in them won't be all gunning for them to shank them, for the most part. Yeah, they literally, we had that story brought up. You know, they had the wrong footage. My ass. It's further showing just how deep-seated the corruption is and how high up the chain we can go with this. And
how dumb they really think everybody else is. It's really insulting.
They'll say people are dumb. The evidence is clear as day. Even though the legal process jurisprudence hasn't played out yet, we can see the evidence and go, yeah, this is like 99% certain. We are 99% right that, or confident in our beliefs that there's a lot of foul play here, and it's going way up that totem pole, buddy. We just need to stick with it, make sure, as the public at large, hold the court system accountable to press this issue hard and justly. But yeah, talking about that DNA on the Canadian American border really has started to bring out these articles of, further, shall we say, overreach and societal controls. So Facebook is going to start banning, quote unquote, deep fakes. So this is going to open the door for them to start banning anything they believe is fake. It's part of their initiative to ban fake news, which, again, I'm going to keep fucking saying this until I'm blue in the face. If they are curating content, they are no longer a platform. They are a publisher. And oh my God, I'm going to start suing as well as hundreds and thousands of other people are going to start suing the shit out of Facebook and Twitter and all these other social media platforms who are laughing in your face as they act as publishers while under the protections of 230. It's disgusting. Exactly, Jack. What's next? Where is the line being drawn? Because they're going to keep pushing. They're going to say, well, satire is fake news. We can't have that. It falls under our fake news directive to tackle that. I mean, what if Zuckerberg already looks like a fucking alien inhabiting a robot body? So what are we going to say? Well, that doesn't look real, even though it is real, just because of the way he looks. And let's not forget that this facial recognition software has a very hard time identifying as accurately as it does with white people. This is no joke. Facial recognition software works at its most efficiently. I think it was last developed. The best recorded was like 83% accuracy with Caucasoids. With Mongoloids and Negroids, it has like something like a 12 or 13% accuracy rating. With Mongoloids, it's closer to 40%. With Mesoamerican, South Americans, it has a 30% success rate. I'm speaking from memory, so I might be a little bit off on the numbers, but the general area is right. You can, I don't want to say that the software is racist because it's just a tool, but how they implement it will be entirely racist, because if it has success rate with one demographic of people, then how they're going to use it to identify things like deep fakes and blah, 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 and fake news and target people is racist, because it's only going to be effective against one race of people. The implementation of it will be racist. Just like I think how using this technology in traffic cameras and stuff that we're all too happy to use up here in the Great White North. I know we are in Toronto, or things that are not traffic violations. I think that they should be, as a last resort. Should policing fail, should something violent against society or its members plays out and they really have no leads, then yes, check the camera. Somebody's running red lights and being a public danger, yes, you can check the cameras. But as far as automatic ticket taking and surveillance, no, you can't go that far. That's my opinion. But through that implementation of that software, again, how they're going to use it, because it can basically only be reliably used against one demographic, is racist. The implementation is racist. Jackie boy!
Hey,
boy,
how's
Blue.
it going? How's it going, everybody?
That hurt.
I'm really cranky today.
Yeah, you know why those facial recognition software that doesn't work for black people, right? It's because the facial recognition software is going to go off of photo analysis. The photo analysis will dictate how certain groups of pixels act together. Mm-hmm. And one of the defining features for that analysis is the difference of color between pixels. If you have two dark pixels next to each other as compared to one light pixel and one dark pixel, that means a lot less to a computer than having that sort of difference. In other words, white people's features are easier to pick up over a camera.
Yeah, because if anybody has even a base understanding of light theory, with what the eye sees is a ray of light bouncing off of a surface, and we see the color in the surface based on, in this case, in skin, how dark it is. We see less light bouncing off of a darker surface, regardless of the color of it. A darker presentation will always reflect less light, and since cameras work off how much light they see, you're entirely right. They see less to work with.
A simple analogy would be, you have a book, it's white paper, black text. In a light room, you can read it just fine, but in a dark room, it's more difficult to read. Well, now think of the paper as your skin color and the lettering as your facial features. The computer can't read your facial features if your skin is darker. And that's just the nub of it.
Yeah, it's just the science of it. It's just how these things work right now. Until we can get super sensitive cameras that can basically scan your every pore on your face, regardless of melanin. I think that automating this type of stuff is too dangerous for the lack of advancement we've made.
I mean, it seems as though every time there's some sort of Orwellian thing that predicts future technology, tech companies are basically using that as a guidebook more than a cautionary tale. They are guided by hubris, not by...
Yeah, look at what we can do.
Not by philosophy. They're guided by hubris, not by philosophy. And so as a result, there's going to be a lot of missteps, and government is going to take advantage of that. I mean, just look at the Juicy Smollett case.
Yeah.
Right now, they're talking about basically getting his Google history, and your Google history basically has everything that of your person on it.
And if you're using a browser like Chrome, you could be using DuckDuckGo your entire life. They can still get your information.
Yes. Which is why you should
never use Chrome.
Why you should switch to Brave.
But Jack,
switch to Brave. It's the same thing, but
exactly. Find a good alternative that
you.
Works for you that doesn't have that tracking software baked into it. But Jack, what do you think? How likely do you think it is that a company like Google, like the Google, is going to create the first, Android or semi-self-aware robot, and won't learn from Isaac Asimov's rules of robotics, won't imprint that into their base coding, and will have these robots running amok because they won't have those cautionary tale basic rules, like cannot through action or inaction allow to be harmed a human being.
People are worried about that, and I understand the concern, but also you have to keep in mind when we talk about learning software, computers don't learn the same way that people do. Computers learn based upon what we give them to learn.
Yep. That's what made Skynet such a terrifying force. It was, by all accounts, perfectly logical in its drive to eradicate humanity. The only way to save humanity is by destroying it. Yes, it's a paradox, but it is also logical because in its eyes, through the information it learned, we were a self-destructive species.
I think that the idea, though, is that you can only give it a certain number of parameters, and I think that people have it would take a far more in-depth analysis. We would have to give it far more many inputs in order for a computer to come to the conclusion that it must hurt another person.
Mm-hmm.
I suspect that a lot more of the danger would come from, at least initially, from computers hurting people by accident. from a computer not knowing what it's doing. It doesn't know if it's hurting a person. So if it hurts a person, it's not going to stop. Which is why I can watch something like the first Iron Man movie when he's testing out all that electronic equipment. I can just imagine some guy trying that, and then all of a sudden he breaks his arm off because the suit of armor moves way past the joint because of some
the human
crap
motion. Yeah, they did that in Iron Man 2, actually, when they were testing the suits. Where the hips would turn, it turned 180 and really, like, literally snapped the pilot in half.
Yeah, that I think is a far more likely occurrence. Than some computer coming to the, because I like to think that maybe the possibility it exists out there that maybe for some reason, who knows, a computer could come to the conclusion that it must help humanity in a certain way, and it won't necessarily say, oh, well, it's going to destroy itself. Who knows? Maybe instead of becoming an evil god, technology could become a benevolent god. We don't know.
Yeah. We don't know how the evolution, if left to its own devices, how it would evolve.
Yes.
And make no mistake about it, there will be a certain point where technology, where software can start to self-evolve. It will not necessarily need human input and human intervention to help it evolve and help the technology progress.
Well, look at it this way. People right now talk about machine learning. It's this thing called machine learning. And basically what you do is you give it a certain amount of things that it can do. Let's say that our machine learning is going to determine how to play Snake. The game allows you to go up, down, right, or left. And so as a result, the computer can't do anything other than those four things. But you give it a goal to hit the little pellet, and eventually, through a series of, say, for example, training data of other people playing Snake, or even just trial and error, just having it hit things at random just to see what happens. Eventually, it's going to come up with the right solution to hit that little pellet. But the thing is that at the end of the day, all it can do is those four keys. It cannot, if you give it those four keys for input, the computer is not going to become Skynet. That's all there is to it. And so there is a lot of leeway. There is a lot of control people can exercise over machines. And this fear, I think, is not completely well-founded.
No,
if that makes any sense
right.
at all.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of this is sort of like, I think that science fiction has gotten a lot right. I think that science fiction has predicted a lot of things. I think that perhaps we may be reading too much into this particular area of science fiction because it kind of fulfills this this human instinct to believe that everything is going to go wrong at once and the world is just going to end outright. It's not necessarily a prediction of science as much as it is a prediction of our base fears that everything is going to blow up.
And
I mean,
the sort of subversive tones that people might pick up from, those apocalyptic type of movies like your Terminators and whatnot, where, it just sort of feeds that natural instinct humans have to be weary of new things, of strange things. I think you're completely right. Yeah.
What about there was this episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation where Data plays Data plays Holmes, and the actor from The Nanny who played Miles from The Nanny, he plays Moriarty, and basically it starts out as this simulation, but then they dictate that the program becomes self-aware, and then
through what you were talking about from the human input, Geordi says, "Computer, make Moriarty a
able to defeat Data.
Data, not Holmes, not the character,
Yes.
but Data. So the computer, being as advanced as it is, puts that into its parameters and says, okay, well, he's a 24th century android, super intelligent, super strong. So I'm going to create this program that's self-aware, that can rival Data.
Exactly.
It
But
was
the episode
natural. Sorry.
and in that perspective, Geordi inadvertently gave the computer simulation programming that could potentially destroy everything, because it needs to be able to defeat Data, and part of that would be destroying, say, for example, the ship. But then the computer program becomes self-aware and then really doesn't want to harm anyone anymore. It becomes a totally different thing, and people, it just feeds into this notion that maybe things wouldn't go so catastrophically wrong, even if there were mistakes. Maybe things could just turn out perfectly fine on their own. I mean, granted, it's science fiction, but then again, you can have science fiction say a lot of different messages.
Yeah, and say what you want about Trek. They've been pretty accurate in some of their depictions of future tech, you know, from tablets to like Google Glass type things, communicators. You know, these things kind of exist now. And yeah, I mean, what was really great was the fact that Moriarty becomes this self-aware, autonomous program, but then because of the input from the crew, from mostly Picard, in saying, well, if you destroy the ship, you destroy yourself. You know, Moriarty's program is evolving. It's taking in this new sensory data and coming to a better conclusion. Okay, well, you know, I will, you know, cease fire and allow you to figure out a way to allow me to evolve with my programming. And, you know, after the episode, because it's a serialized series, they kind of forgot about it. But then in the next season, or maybe it was 2 seasons later, it gets, you know, accidentally reactivated by Barclay, and Moriarty throws a fit, because it's like, well, what the fuck? It's been 2 years. You haven't even reactivated me to give me an update. You haven't made any headway in this. You just kind of forgot about me. And then, you know, he gets mad again because he got betrayed by the people who promised to do something.
But in fairness, they couldn't turn that into a seasonal arc or anything.
No.
I think that's more an artifact of the writing than it is reality.
Yeah. I mean, you do have to take things like Trek with, you know, a tablespoon of salt most times, because like you said, it's just a TV show. It's written by human beings. We're infallible. Sometimes things get, you know, when people get so nitpicky with those kinds of things in shows, I'm just like, now you're just taking it too far. You can criticize. Don't get me wrong. You know, I love criticizing and giving critiques about things like this, but you can't just get too nitpicky without it just becoming redundant and pedantic. Like, it just. Ugh.
But by the way, Functional, have you ever been on Blind Press's stream? Or Star Trek stream?
No. They do their stream when I do my Saturday stream. So I always watch it afterwards, because I am a huge Trek person and I know these people. And for the most part, you know, like, I really enjoy their takes on the Trek episodes they talk about, and I really like the structure of their show. So it's really fun. I always go back after and watch it. I lose that little bit of interaction you get with a live stream. But I still, you know, I will always go back and watch it, because I do like that show that they're putting out.
I'm actually not a huge Trek fan. I was just drawing from because I'm a casual. I'm a filthy casual. What can I say?
Yeah.
But because you were just you're like going back through I could hear the cogs turning when you're accessing the memory for the show, and I was like, I bet you he would love this shit.
Yeah, and anybody who knows me knows that I watch far too much Star Trek. You know, when I'm gaming or something and there's nothing going on YouTube or whatever, I'll have DS9 or TNG or whatever on in the background. When I'm going to sleep, I'll throw on an episode and fall asleep to it. It's a bit of a tradition. So I can't access that shit like just too sweet. Like,
Shut up, Wesley.
That was fantastic.
Sorry, everywhere that I'm still here.
my real life is like Herman's head all the time. Throwback to the 80s children out there.
Yeah. How the hell did Herman's head become such like this? It's like this tiny little cultural footnote, but it keeps popping up. Didn't it get like 3 episodes or something like that?
No, it got 2 seasons, I want to say, on Fox.
It did? I thought it was like a really like
maybe it was a
small thing.
one-off, but I'm pretty sure there was a second season. But because of the hyper connectivity of technology in today's day, it's literally becoming like everybody's using GIFs and sound clips and everything to convey an emotion or a scene from pop culture. So it's exactly
We might as well
what
just be back to
Herman's head.
hieroglyphics at this point.
Well, it's exactly like what Herman's head was portraying in the 90s before we had this technology. So that's why it was like really just a footnote in entertainment history, but it's super, super relevant, more relevant than shows that had, 20 times the popularity. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I wouldn't say the 80s maybe, but yeah, there was a lot of predictions back then that we've gotten from certain shows,
Mm-hmm. I mean, again, it's life imitating art, imitating life.
Yeah.
What is the natural evolution of personal writing and data storage? Well, you want it small, portable, but still in the same sort of dimensions that we're used to. So something like a pad from Star Trek or a tablet from real life.
Well, for example,
emulates a
one of
piece
the
of paper.
I remember listening to this documentary about Star Trek, and one of the things that they actually came up with was basically Windows Media Player.
Mm-hmm.
And because they would, during the show, they would say, play this song, and the computer would play that song, and the guy was like, hey, you can do that on the computer. Just put the song on there and click on it, and it starts playing. And so, I mean, that was a very real thing, and it's kind of an important piece of music history, because eventually it would lead to piracy and basically half the fall of the music industry as a business model.
Well, I mean, people will still pay for music. We've seen that with open platforms like YouTube. People will pay for content they want to consume. Not everybody, because there's a lot of poor people out there. There's a lot of people who can't fit that kind of stuff into their budgets. They still will spend money on things. They just are a little bit more frugal with their spending. But it still is a tenable model because people will still buy the digital copies of their albums. I think a lot of the industry's downfall was their complete overreaction to the piracy.
Yes.
Like people still pirated CDs and audio cassettes and everything back in the day. It was less prevalent because it was less accessible. And yes, with digital formats, it's a lot easier for people to pirate film, TV, music. But with people like Metallica completely going overboard and, attacking the middleman, the LimeWires of the world, and the torrent Napsters, you're not attacking the problem. You're just attacking the middleman. That's why, when we think of social media sites, that's why they have 230 protection. So they're not legally liable if they act as a platform
for people's content that they're posting, because that's not their modus operandi. They don't want to control what people are posting to certain extents. You know, obviously things that are already on the books as illegal, like child porn. Yes, that's an automatic no for good reason. But just because they don't like an opinion, or there might be issues of suspected copyright, they act outside of the authority of law, the authority of the notion of jurisprudence, the innocent until proven guilty. You know, drunken uncle gets his channel taken down for suspected infringement on their terms of service. Well, he's already been deemed guilty before he has any, and then he has to go about it ass backwards and then appeal it to get it back, even though he did nothing wrong. They acted before there was evidence to indict.
I gotta say, what it pisses me off that a corporation can get away with that sort of behavior on the sole basis that it has the money to defend itself, and some nobody on the internet doesn't have that. That is totally ass backwards. It's going to be
one of the big downfalls of these platforms.
Yes,
like look at how hungry people are for an alternative to YouTube. Yes, it's not going to be YouTube out the gate. Facebook wasn't MySpace out the gate. Remember that. MySpace had a lot of features and a lot of advantages over Facebook. But eventually, because people wanted to get off of MySpace and wanted that alternative, they migrated slowly but surely to Facebook. I think we'll see an even quicker exodus from YouTube to, let's just say, for intents and purposes, BitChute. You know, BitChute tomorrow goes live with their live streaming services open to the public. You don't think that the Razor Fists, that the PewDiePies, the Sargons, even the moderately popular people, you know, the people that we watch, like Ranting Monkey and Scribe and Satsu, Bloodwing, you don't think that all of us, we're all going to make that migration? Yes, at the outset, people will dual cast. They'll dual cast to their normal platform of YouTube, and they will quick cast out to BitChute, and they will let everybody know through YouTube that, hey, we're also streaming on BitChute. And how many of just as looking at it from just a consumer perspective, not as a content creators as well, I will be like, you know what? I'm sick of YouTube. Yeah, I'm going to start supporting you solely on BitChute. And it'll be the new big thing. And the cycle will, hopefully not, but the cycle will repeat itself. They'll become too big. The next platform will come along. And all we're simply asking for these companies to act within the already established scope of the law. We're not asking for much.
I think that there is one major hurdle to moving from YouTube to BitChute. Well, actually, two major hurdles.
There are a few, yeah.
The first one is usability. Right now, BitChute is not as convenient as YouTube. BitChute has it's kind of janky in terms of user controls, and you have to.
I will agree with you on that. It has made improvements over the years. But I mean, I was just using BitChute specifically as it could be streamyourbutt.com or whatever tomorrow that, takes the reins and but I see what you're saying. I agree in certain respects.
The second thing, and this is the only way it's ever going to catch on as a major thing, is the normie vote. YouTube is a very different industry from something like Facebook, because Facebook, in order to reach the general populace, it needed to make sure it was exclusive from what your parents were looking at. Once your parents were on it, it becomes uncool and then goes away. YouTube isn't like that model. YouTube, your parents can be on it and you can be on it. And the thing is that it has content for everyone, and those people don't necessarily meet up in the middle anywhere, which means that you can be exclusive from people that you don't really want to see at all.
I agree with you, but with the currently 3 adpocalypses that have happened and all the trouble that YouTube has brought unto itself with its platform and how it's treated its creators, it doesn't matter if you're a ranting monkey or a Cooking with Martha, or Gordon Ramsay. He's got like 500
Doesn't matter.
followers. It doesn't matter. If they go to the new platform, the normies will follow.
No, and here's the problem with that.
I think they will.
Don't underestimate the ignorance of the general population. They can remain. If you ask the normal person on the street, I will bet you that they will not have any idea of what's going on with YouTube. You know why? It's because they go to YouTube for their music. They go to YouTube to look at music videos and play it in the background while they're doing their job throughout the day or something like that. They don't go to YouTube for commentary. And commentary is only a small.
Yes. But Jack, you're jumping to the end of the hurdle race here before addressing the several first hurdles. Like, the first hurdle is getting the content creators over there. The second is then it becomes that early year Facebook where it was exclusive. You have your tech savvy online elite there, and then the normies will start following, because they'll be like, well, why does, I'm for all intents and purposes, I'm a normie. I watch Razor Fist and cat videos and music on YouTube. Now, in that one of those three, they're going to tell me that BitChute is a thing. I'll go check it out. Okay, maybe it's not my thing at the outset, but my tech savvy friends keep talking about it. It does start getting ground in mainstream media news. People are talking about it on the normie platforms I'm already on. I see that now 4 or 5 hurdles in. Well, now Vimeo, or not Vimeo, BMG Music is now hosting on BitChute. So it's a progression. It's not going to be tomorrow all the normies are over there, but with the elite, quote unquote, and going to a place, the services will follow. The less informed people will follow that, and then the normies will follow that. So there is an open gap in the market. The efficacy at which people will migrate to these will really depend on the platform, I think.
I hope that you're right.
Yeah,
I really do.
Well, I mean, look at what happens with products and services, like Amazon. If you make a tenable product, even though it might not be viable at the outset, the investment will pay off in the end, because if you put out a good enough product or service, people will start coming.
I hope that you're right.
So do I.
But the thing that it's this sense of perspective of mine of remember
that
that guy.
Bit more pessimistic. I understand that. I do.
Well, no. If you remember, after the 2016 election, there was a reporter and Tim Pool, the beanie talks about this event all the time. Is that they went out to some place in Middle America, and those guys had no idea about any of the political events that were surrounding the election. They just knew what Trump stood for, and that's why they voted for him. People don't know about these sorts of events that may affect people like us very substantially. But the thing is that there needs to be, in order for them to want to move away from YouTube, there needs to be something substantial that will drive them away from YouTube and towards BitChute. There needs to be a substantial advantage, and BitChute doesn't have that right now. It has lots of things that
right
YouTube
now,
has.
Not at all.
It has lots of things that YouTube has, but it doesn't have anything that really. It needs to be either a major screw up on YouTube's part, and I mean bigger than the screw ups they've had so far. Something that affects the normal viewer in a very substantial way. Or it needs to be something about BitChute that is much, much greater than YouTube that can drive them towards it. There needs to be some sort of driving action, and I don't see that with BitChute.
In its current state, not as much. In hosting videos, I would say it's on par. But you're right, it doesn't have the pull yet. like I said, this would be an ongoing, evolving process, and it wouldn't happen overnight per se. It could happen a lot faster than people will think, because the prime people who are affected are content creators. And as much as you want to put the pull behind, yes, music is the biggest draw of YouTube right now. YouTube music and cat videos. It's a meme, but it's a meme.
There is, I mean, as much as it sucks that what happened to Drunkle has happened to Drunkle, the one thing you know for sure, though, lately is it's not just Drunken Uncle. You know, I've been seeing little things like that happening to even other communities on YouTube.
Yeah.
With no explanation, no apologies.
Unboxing communities, the toys community, toy review communities. Like, we're talking big, substantial pull communities who have been affected. They might not have been as badly affected because they do have big pull. You know, they have that more influence in the YouTube sphere behind the scenes. But at the end of the day, they're still affected. And guaranteed that those parents of those YouTube toy reviewers, yes, they may at some point start that simulcast. They won't just abandon YouTube. That would be cutting off your nose to spite your face. But they will also start casting on that alternative that is early days YouTube, and where their message is, yeah, broadcast yourself, free speech, online, free video.
Yeah. It's just because, like,
at the outset, you know, YouTube was not financially viable. They were bleeding, hemorrhaging money at the beginning, but because they had the financial backing, they could keep going, just like Amazon, to turn into the juggernaut of industry that they are today. And that is, I think, is going to be the biggest hurdle for a company like BitChute, is that initial financial backing, because they won't be financial viable.
Yeah, it is the reason why, like I it's one of the reasons why I do agree with functional. Like, even if it isn't BitChute, it's going to be something else, because the thing with YouTube, and I think you can agree on this one.
Their shit in order.
And I mean, I'm sure you can agree on this one too, Jack. It's like, at the end of the day, I mean, YouTube is big now, but it wouldn't be as big as it is if it wasn't for everyone who's built it up, and that's been the community.
It just, I would say this: people think that the ride's never going to end, but it does.
Oh yeah,
and especially in the web realm, the ride can end very quickly, and you know, the bell tolls for thee and all that shit. 10 years from now, YouTube might be a distant memory. It very well might be, and we could be talking about the next big platform. But the only way that happens is if your product has something to offer that the other product doesn't. And that's why the distinction between YouTube and, say, other forms of social media is so important, because the thing that drove MySpace out of business is your parents aren't on it.
Yeah, there was that exclusivity of being on Facebook. You had to be invited by somebody who was already a member.
Yeah.
Just
And
like a golf club.
Oh, Duck Dog, the Mainer has spoken up. Jack
He's
is
not
full
wrong.
of shirt. Don't trust cow Hampshireans.
He's not wrong, Jack. Sorry.
I'm not gonna take my advice from someone who's from low IQ Maine. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you're just taking a little bit of a more pessimistic view on it, and there's no shame in that too, because I mean, let's be real, like the internet's always been like that. Like, I mean, there's always been a new thing on the internet. But I do think the community and the want to share content, that hasn't changed. I don't think it's in our nature to do that. I think that's the problem.
People are still clamoring for that shit.
You know, that's why these guys are going to fail, because there's always going to be so many people who just are like, yeah, you know what, we came onto YouTube because we wanted to express ourselves, and you guys offered us that opportunity, but we'll take it somewhere else.
Just looking, how many? Okay, Ranting Monkey, just on his Ranting Monkey channel, has 26.8K subscribers. Now, if the algorithm were fair were equitable, how many more subscribers do you think you would have on that channel? I would say it would almost quadruple. I'd say he'd easily have 100, 150, 200,000 subscribers. But because of the way that the current YouTube algorithm is being selective of things and favoring certain things, he's not going to get that pull.
Well, here's the thing. Someone's always going to lose. Somebody is always going to lose when it comes to the algorithm, because the human brain can only watch so many videos in a day, and somebody needs to get them. And for every video that, and for the most part, considering that time is a limited function, it's a zero-sum game. If I don't watch a video, or if I watch a video, that's another video that could have potentially been watched that isn't going to get watched.
No, I totally agree with that.
And so as a result, YouTube needs to dampen some things, because channels can't grow exponentially forever, because eventually you run into hard limits like the population of the earth.
But Jack, I'm talking specifically when I'm getting recommended, Jimmy Kimmel Live, when I've never once ever in my life on him or any of related shows or anything. Like, it's a forced curation as opposed to allowing a natural growth of things.
But the problem is, that's not the algorithm. That is manually put in. That is them saying, okay, well, these people are giving us money. I don't know what the hell is going on. Is there some sort of quid pro quo? Because the ads play on those videos, which means that money is going to them, but presumably they're also paying YouTube to get that sort of position. Or is it just because YouTube artificially inflates them because they assume it will be popular with their audience, in spite of the lack of numerical evidence?
Well, without speaking to any certainty, we know that there's a favoritism from YouTube to these network television outlets, because we don't know the numbers, but we obviously see that there is some sort of quid pro quo going on, because why would YouTube be kowtowing and promoting their direct rivals in cable TV?
Well, did you ever see that?
There's a direct set number of hours in a day a certain given individual can watch video.
Did you ever see that video? There was a gentleman who went through all the what do you call them? The trending videos of YouTube, and basically wrote down all the views that they had at the time, and analyzed the data, and found out that if you're in certain sections of the news, you get, or if you're in certain sections of YouTube, then you automatically get a lower threshold to make it to the trending page. And so, like, there were news organizations that would get on the trending page where the threshold was like 10,000 views, whereas somebody like PewDiePie was like 10 million views, so something absurd like that. I forget who did that video, but it was very interesting because the weights are stacked very vastly differently for different people, and it's I'm just wondering what it is that what is YouTube's motive, because at the end of the day, I don't think that YouTube and cable are in as direct competition as you think. I think that certain people watch TV because they are aligned to do so, and certain people watch YouTube because they are aligned to do so. And there's sort of a lot of mutually exclusive territory between those two things. And I think that YouTube is just taking the opportunity to say, okay, well, they're giving us these things that the people online can watch. And as a result, there's an online presence of people who wouldn't otherwise watch those TV shows on cable. I think there's a lot of mutually exclusive territory between that right now.
Yeah.
Yes, but at the same time, there are other competitors to cable TV. You got your Netflixes and all that sort of crowd, the Hulus, Amazon, whatever, and then you've got the new services coming out, CBS Plus and Fox Plus and Disney Plus. Like, it's territory that YouTube doesn't necessarily have to cover, but more people are getting their entertainment news from YouTube than they are from mainstream TV nowadays. People would rather hear editorial from real people on YouTube than they will from, you know, your personalities on Fox and Friends or MSNBC Joe Scarborough in the morning kind of deal. People don't want to listen to these people anymore. But I think that one of the what I mean as a direct competitor is exactly what you were saying. I have to repeat it, in that it's screen time. It doesn't matter what the actual thing on screen is. It's just sheer amount of screen time people have. This is why I'm not elitist with my film watching with people, because I've got a lot of time in the day now. I can watch a lot of movies and TV and speak to those things with certainty, with confidence when I give a recommendation or when I critique something. And I don't try to be an elitist to other people who don't have the time to watch 20 movies a day or watch Star Trek 10 times a year, you know? But yeah, I mean, it's a very base level of competition of just screen time.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest losses to YouTube, though, is like the real original videos. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I do like what, you know, the guys still put out every once in a while, but I miss it's one of those things with like Neebs is like my example is they used to have a separate channel where they did animated skits. And they were like they made everything like they had people animate it with them. They had guest voice actors and they voice acted the whole thing. And you know, they put a hell of a lot of effort into it. You know, and it was crowdfunded, and you know, the whole community for them came together with it because it was the community making a video, not, you know, it wasn't something that was just on TV. And they did a really good job. Like, you know, they're all talented voice actors. Like, you know, sorry, Teph, I know things happened. Next week I'll probably try one on Discord and see if I can give that a shot, just because, like, you know, maybe I can set something up for that, and I don't know.
I miss the days of YouTube when it was just like three friends doing jack shit together. Like when it was there was one where it was just guys who would microwave random shit, and it was called "Is it a good idea to microwave this?" And they would just, you know, crack jokes about it. And that's what YouTube used to be about, was just, you know, people who owned a camera and just filmed the stupid shit that they did. I thought that was great. It was stupid as hell, but it was great because it felt real. And nowadays everything, it's sort of like the industry has changed in such a massive way to become more refined and more commercialized. It lost a lot of that.
We have a last minute
small
guest.
Time feel.
Last minute? What are you talking about?
Snoopy?
Wow.
What's up?
No,
but Snoopy doesn't talk.
Sorry about that.
This is the dog of Snoop. This is my friend Will. I know him on Discord, and sometimes I go to him for advice because he makes me actually read stuff, which is good because I have to do that. And
sorry for being late, guys. I had to help a friend. So.
Okay, boomer.
Yeah.
Well, obviously,
oh wait, this is the same guy that was having the technical issue?
No. That's Teph. So he's got a new. He changed it anyway. So. Yeah, I was trying to get Teph one on.
You were trying not to tell us what your conversation was about. So now we're all going to prod you about whatever that private conversation was about with your friend. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No, nothing really.
No.
Nothing really.
Yeah, sorry. Jen wanted me to come in here and talk about a rant or whatever. I assume that's you guys are all done and through with whatever. So, but I saw you're still here, so I came in to say hi.
Yeah, we did. We covered a little bit of it earlier, but
we can shift gears and change the scenery back to Iran.
All right. Well, whatever you guys want to talk about.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
did you have something in particular to talk about, Iran? I mean,
Oh no. I mean,
just-
Jen just wanted me to come in and talk about it.
Okay.
I really, I don't
just
know.
We just generally we just brought up the news that there's a lot of memorials going on. We pretty much we know what's going on out in the world. We just I mean,
yeah, no, everybody's very, very agitated.
Yeah, it was the stuff leading up to it. It was like I was following some of it, but it was like all over the place. So it was just like, once I watched Random Monkey kind of explain what was going on, but like he's a little bit more
Random
conservative than Ranting Monkey, Random Monkey.
Oh.
Well, my brain is a little stoned.
Random American and Ranting Monkey fusion.
That would be amazing. Sorry, Will.
No problem.
Just keep him away from
It's like
stairs.
I'd followed a little bit before, but I hadn't gotten in depth because it's another one of those things where stuff happened, and I don't really disagree with the decision that was made. Like, I mean, I might be a little bit biased because, like, I'm sorry, the Iranian community here was cheering for the guy's death, and to me, that says a lot for the guy. Like he was probably a piece of shit. I understand that maybe other people might have died, and that's tragic if there were people.
Well, Iran has, I think, the highest per capita executions in the world. And if for those of you with a strong constitution, you can go to Google image search and type in Iran executions, and what you'll see is construction cranes, which is how they do it. And what they do is they go to the community where you came from. They'll go to your neighborhood. And they won't kill you in the prison. They won't kill you in like a soccer stadium like the Taliban would. What they will do is they will go to where you live in front of your mom's house, in front of your school, your neighborhood, and they bring a construction crane. They put a noose around your neck, and then they just have that crane lift up until you dance on air. And once a crowd gathers. And then they say a couple words. Your body goes in the back of a van, and that's that. And it's a regular occurrence throughout Iran.
Yep.
No, the thing is, everyone's talking about World War III, blah blah blah. It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. It's the media just wants this to happen because they want
ratings.
No, it's not just that. They want there to be an unpopular war so that they can crucify Donald Trump. That's all they really want. We have
updates in the DNC primary polls. Qasem Soleimani gains a solid 12% uptick, whereas Bernie Sanders drops back down to 9%, and Pete Buttigieg is out of the gate, dominating over Joe Biden's measly 15% with a whopping 25%.
Wow.
That Qasem Soleimani, man, his reach from the grave. Woo, boy.
It's amazing with Joe Biden. Because like what wasn't it like last week that he'd said something that sounded almost like it was in favor of something Trump had said, and like, oh my God.
Yeah, that's one thing I don't understand about modern politics is, if the opposition says something, you can't agree. What is going on with that? You have to play your partisan game. You can't agree on anything. Nothing.
Like I don't trust.
Everything becomes a left or right issue.
Like with Joe, he's still a Democrat and he's still a politician. But like I gave him points for at least like being like, hey, you guys do realize that like the reason we're losing is because you do this shit, right? Like he couldn't have spelled it out any better, and I was just like, I kind of feel for you. I mean, you're still creepy on
because Joe goes to his assistant. He's like, "What are the kids talking on the Twitter phone these days?"
Yeah,
and the Twitter phone, sir? Oh, you mean Twitter? Yeah, the Twitter phone. What are the kids saying these days? They're saying that they want socialism. Okay, so we're gonna talk about socialism. What else? Black Lives Matter. Okay, we're gonna get behind Black Lives Matter. He wouldn't enact some of the shit that he says because they're just talking points for the left. Whereas
with your Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warrens, yeah, they might be old and out of touch, but in a different way, that this is stuff that they actually would believe. They actually probably would give illegal immigrants, full health care and open up the borders and completely ruin swaths of the country. Again, Bernie Sanders, very, very active on his gun control talking points, has outside of Chirac, has a very high crime gun rate in Vermont.
Yeah.
Even though he's, apparently so good at dealing with guns. And you want us to transfer your fucking mismanagement onto the global stage? You're a fucking idiot. This is why I hate my fellow compatriots on the left so much.
Well, it's a problem throughout, I think, political discourse, at least in the United States, likely in other countries as well. A lot of the ability to find common ground and to reason with each other with any kind of integrity has, it seems to have fallen apart. And whilst I would like to throw that exclusively at one faction or the other, I do think it's systemic. I think it's both.
Oh
right
yeah, of course.
left
Because 10 years
have
I
a
was
problem.
saying the exact same thing about the right. Don't worry.
Right. And so it's very frustrating because there's an enormous amount of common ground where there's no disagreement between any of the major factions. And if the first thing we did was just did all the things that we all agreed on, just did that, and then leave the controversial stuff for just like tomorrow. Well, I mean, literally tomorrow. We'll do it tomorrow. But today, let's do all the stuff that we all agree on. And an enormous number of our problems would just go away if we just did all the stuff we all agree on. We agree that there is a problem with the expense of healthcare in the United States. We agree that there is a problem with what to do about that is perhaps controversial, but we do agree that's an issue. And there are sub elements in that are also not controversial. So you can look at things like the result that the FDA has had on drug prices in the United States. So this has nothing to do with subsidy. This is everything to do with scarcity. So in the United States, for example, we've got a medical grade baking soda shortage, which is, I shit you not, it is Arm & Hammer baking soda put in distilled water, mixed around the way that you mix Kool-Aid into water. We have a shortage of that in the United States because and a single dose of that can go for as much as $400 US. Now the constituent ingredients is 10 cents. And you can't say it's the corporations, because what corporation wouldn't love to turn 10 cents of bullshit into $400 of profit? They'd love to do it. They can't. Only 2 companies in the United States actually are allowed to make this stuff. It's not even under patent. So people say, oh, it's just patent law. No, this is baking soda and water. This is not under patent. It's the FDA will not license more companies. And so this creates an artificial scarcity, which jacks up prices. It creates all kinds of problems. And you see this systemically throughout American healthcare. It's where there are all these things that just take American healthcare costs and jack them up by a factor of 10 for fucking no reason. And it's not a question of, oh, we need to give more money to X program or Y program. It just fix something that is obviously broken and has no argument for it doing what it's doing. And right like that, boom, costs would come crashing down.
Well, I can see one problem with that because as far as I'm concerned, socialism is obviously broken, and yet still a third of the country wants it.
No. So anything controversial,
he's not talking
we wouldn't
about
do.
He's not talking about the solution. He's talking about just agreeing what the problem is. Like,
well, sure.
Like, yes, how Trump plans on tackling exorbitant drug prices, for instance, will probably be through a little bit of deregulation. So like what you were talking about, Snoopy, about, there's too much red tape. Shortage. Yeah, there's too much red tape with that solution. Yeah. He would probably maybe tear away some of those regulations. That's what he did to rekindle the, pardon the pun, the coal industry.
Wait,
but hold on. Like what Jack was saying is, you take someone like a Bernie Sanders, his thing would just be to subsidize and throw money at the problem. Yeah. Now there comes the point where we say, okay, well, where do the solutions come from? But it's the initial sitting down to talk about it. And these two polar opposites, address the same issue, but refuse to talk to one another because Orange Man bad.
But let me just throw this in here.
Sure.
Do you think if I was sitting down with Bernie Sanders and I talked to him about this baking sodas thing, do you think that Bernie Sanders would oppose reforming the FDA such that we could increase supply? I don't think that's a controversial position.
I don't think so, but I think that the way he would tackle it would be different. And knowing as well read up on Bernie Sanders as the example I am, I would with good confidence say that he would probably throw a lot more money at the FDA and nothing would really be solved. They would just put a Band-Aid over the solution, whereas someone like a Trump, which this is a little bit more speculation because I'm not well up on what he would do individually. But let's say he just tore away those regulations that the FDA has on the grasp that they have on.
Let's say we just had an agreement that we're not going to do anything that we disagree on, right? Just for this one discussion, right?
Well,
that's just what we're doing. So, but then we say, okay, what do we actually just straight up agree? So if you say, I want to jack up subsidies, that's going to be controversial enough that someone's going to say no.
Well, that's the thing. They both. Go ahead, Jack. You've been wanting to get in for a second.
There's a bit of a problem here. Is that there's a fundamental disconnect between people who advocate for socialism and the rest of society. These are the kinds of things that we're talking about. We're talking about if Trump says one thing, we say the opposite.
Yeah.
If capitalism believes in one thing, then socialism believes in the opposite. Socialism does not advocate for things like scarcity. Socialism believes that scarcity doesn't even really exist.
Yeah.
Because think about it. I mean, that's one of the fundamental principles when they say healthcare is a human right.
But
they don't
what
believe...
Sinoop is trying to say is that we can address these diametric opposites in this example, Trump and Sanders, they both say that there is a problem. So we already have that established. The next step is to sit down and do something about it. One person is not going to do that. And in this example, it's going to be the Bernie Sanders camp. Those types of people are not going to come to the table and even talk about it with, Orange Man bad, because he knows it will be political suicide. Half of his base tomorrow, the next day would be like, I cannot, he sat down. Oh my God, he talked to Trump. What's wrong? Is he selling out?
Even if they did come to the table, their misunderstandings of economics are so fundamental that presented with that obvious problem that you just gave us, they would still not understand it. They would think that the problem was not enough money. They would think that the problem was they don't understand how scarcity works. They don't understand how economics works. Even if they tried to solve the problem, they would immediately go for an absolutely absurd solution that would bankrupt the country overnight if they could.
I've talked to a lot of communists and whatever, and I actually have largely come to the conclusion that they're actually religious. Which is I think a somewhat controversial opinion. Often I'll say that, and people will be like, "Oh, how can you say that?" But they come into situations with a dogmatic notion of an objective morality that is not arguable, and they have this notion of good and evil, right and wrong. You can't. It's not debatable. It is what it is. It's prescribed by their little book that they read. And you can show them any kind of empirical contradiction to what they're saying, and they'll still tell you that the world is 6,000 years old. I mean, they'll come at you with whatever the book said. That the basis of value is labor, and you can show them any number of empirical contradictions to that problem. And what they'll then do is they'll start redefining what everything means, such that they're right. I mean, you've heard them refer to wanting to create a stateless society, for example, which is one of their obvious weird redefinitions of terms. And they arrive at claiming a stateless society by redefining what a state is.
Yeah,
which is it's great. It's like now I don't even know what we're talking about.
But yeah, the problem it's a problem of these are people who will literally never be satisfied. The only satisfied communist, and I mean this not as a joke, is a dead communist. Because if you're dead, you can't get upset about things.
Yeah, you can't open your mouth either, which is good.
It wouldn't matter if they had the most brilliant life in the world. It wouldn't matter if the world was a perfect place. A communist is the type of person who would still find problems, who would still look for completely bogus solutions. They will find problems out of non-problems, and because
it's that hyper-religious mentality. Yeah,
it is a religion. It is a religion.
Yeah, exactly. And like all religions, it doesn't like other religions.
Yes.
And it lends itself to extremism.
And that is the problem that we're dealing with in America right now.
In the West as a whole, yeah.
In the West as a whole. It's not the vast majority of people. The vast majority of people are just looking to live their lives free of interruption. But that small percentage is just looking to fuck everything up.
Well, utopia always sounds good on paper.
Yeah, utopia is always one death away.
But none of these people, like, friend of the channel Cryptic, somebody who's actually lived under communism, those types of people will be the first ones to tell you never again. And these people never grew up, even with the Red Scare in the 80s. Like, some of us here, we grew up under that sort of looming shadow. Nothing came of it, thankfully, but we understood it. And it was taught in schools. We were, our parents talked to us about it and said, yeah, communism is a bad thing. It's people telling you how do you live your life, and thank your lucky stars every day that you live in a wonderful country like Canada or the United States or Britain, and say you have freedom to live your life.
Not just that. It's not even just historical stuff. Venezuela. This is a country that Jeremy Corbyn said was the perfect model of communism. Then it fails, and then they blame damage control.
Then they blame the successful. They blame the United States. They blame
it wasn't
white
true.
people.
It wasn't true socialism. What? And then not only that, but in like America, there are like forums where people will talk about how great socialism is, and then someone from Venezuela will come in and say, "Oh my God, we're all dying over. We're eating our family pets over here," and then they'll block them because that's inconvenient.
Yeah.
Oh my God, we have a full house, guys. I can't let anybody else on because this is. Oh. And then they'll block.
And I'm gonna drop down the cartoon in a second, but I found this amazing cartoon. Let me mute the stream. Okay, there you go.
Hello.
It's
Can I be heard?
Yes.
Yes.
And there's no more echo. More technical issues, but it's a bunch of winged Qasem Soleimani's coming out of the grave to run the terrible Americans down with fire and brimstone. It was cute Iranian state propaganda.
Yeah.
Oh, I like this avatar of yours.
Yeah, it's all that I had on hand.
No worries.
I didn't have my avatar on my phone.
Yeah, I was telling them before the stream started that like the last time, because I still follow you on your streams occasionally when I see them or catch them and stuff. But I think the last time I really played a game with you was like 7 Days to Die, and there was that one 18-year-old kid who kept leaving the door open. Oh man, it was one of those first time streams that I tried to do that didn't record properly. And my mental freak out on this kid was like fantastic. It was one of those things like, I was hoping to share so I can humiliate myself later.
Yeah, I was sitting here fiddling with sitting here fiddling with Chrome for God knows how long. And then I had to go do something. And then I came back and it still wouldn't fucking work. I was getting really, really frustrated. And so I said to myself, you know what? I think I have a final solution to this problem. I'm going to open my phone. That worked. That seems to have worked.
That's weird. Like I wasn't sure how to go about that. I was like, well, maybe afterwards I could like I don't know, show you what it looks like for me when I go on. But like, I'm not tech savvy. I'm depressingly not tech savvy, guys. That's why I stick to StreamYards because it's very simple. You just let people on and we start talking.
Well,
and I can share articles too.
Seems like it's a no bullshit platform.
Yeah, it really
High
is.
five.
I mean, my only
Until
thing with
now.
it. Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, that's a lot of that has to do with the fact that I don't know how to help you either. You know, it's like when I'm preying on Functional's patience because he's underslept today.
Oh, don't
like,
worry. My psychiatrist doesn't know how to help me either.
And yeah, Double D, I'm okay. How are you doing? You know, I haven't really gassed any people today, so that's good.
No, you're good. You're doing fine. It's just like I do that with technology. It's one of those.
No,
things
he was
where...
making a Jew joke.
Oh, okay. Well, I can only do that sometimes.
He's just jealous of my.
I take a look at my enormous penis, and my troubles start melting away.
So yes, I get cranky, and then I just think about it, and I'm like, penis.
Oh no, you're fine. Like I said, it's one of those things where when it comes to the tech, it actually bothers me just as much though, because I'd like to know how to help people with stuff sometimes. I mean, I understand like the complicated stuff is definitely going to be over my head for like ever.
Well, you know what, Duck Dog, you'll never get my Jew gold.
No. But I'm really glad everyone's actually here. I mean, like this stream actually went a little bit past where I probably should, but I'm gonna keep going for a little bit longer because, like, you know, screw StreamYards. Because that's the other complaint I have is like it's a 20-hour limit per month for the free stuff.
Ooh.
And then afterwards, you have to pay a fee. I don't think it was even that much. It's just one of those things where, like, I don't know that I can justify that because, like, I'm on low income, like a lot.
I might just try and help you figure out OBS then.
Yeah. It's just the last time I had a stream on Discord, which is fine. It does work. It's just Discord and OBS argue with sound, and so I came across sounding like a robot too. Oh yeah.
No, because on my streams it sounds fine.
Yeah, I don't know.
You probably just okay. We can work that out on off stream.
Yeah.
It sounds like a multi-channel issue. Sometimes
Exactly.
Sometimes programs have a hard time deciding which one has priority.
But yeah, like the last time I did it, I was doing a 7 Days Did I stream, and it was one of those things where the audience could hear us individually just fine, but they just heard me as like the worst kind of robot. So I was like, oh, I you know, and half of them were kind of roboting off and on for me, so it was just like I could still hear them, but they couldn't understand me, so it's just like Morse code. Yeah, I don't know. I have a magical touch too, so.
You got the touch.
I got the touch.
You got the power.
You want to know how to really invade a country? You just send me to their technical room, and I'll just touch buttons and do absolutely nothing afterwards, and they'll just like go to shit. But as an afterthought, I might download some really, really hot yaoi just for them, because you know which ones you'd send me to.
Okay, so what was the topic? I was muted for a little while there while I was trying to figure out.
We were bad mouthing communism and we're
all my favorite.
But the diametrically opposed political parties not even willing to come to the table on issues we can agree on are issues, but because you have to stick to your own team, you can't come to the table, for instance, on drug prices and identify the problems and then try to hammer out some amicable solution.
Yeah, you know, as far as I'm aware, that wasn't a problem 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm. No, it got worse. I've actually made a little bit of a study of the healthcare situation in the United States, and what it is, it's like a patient that has every single goddamn disease at the same time. You ever seen like one of these stray dogs that gets pulled into a vet, and they don't have like one thing? They've got
It's like
everything.
20 things. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
believe
what's happened to
this
the U.S.
is-
medical system. It's got 20 things. We got the AMA screwing us. We got the FDA screwing us.
And that's one big
We've got
criticism I would make
Medicare
about.
dumping $1 trillion a year into the industry. We've got all kinds of weird regulations that make it very bureaucratic. And unnecessarily so. And anyway, so it goes on and on and on and on. And if you deal with all of that, or even some portion of it, because look, parts of it are going to be controversial, and that's fine. Anything that's controversial, we'll talk about that later. But if there's like something we both not only agree it's a problem, but also we agree that something should, or a specific thing should or should not be happening. Like,
Hold
it's
up
like,
one
it's
second.
a direct agreement on policy.
Newf, you got to take off?
Yeah, I just got to take care of some things that just came up last minute.
No worries.
Anyways,
See you later.
take it easy, guys.
Have a good
Thanks
one,
for joining
Newf.
us.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Sleep well.
Anytime. I will try.
Any parting words?
Chef us.
No.
Okay, see you around.
Keep your stick on the ice, and don't forget to take off your pants and slide on the ice.
Oh my.
Oh my.
Is my stick on the ice? Or my
I
pants
guess
down?
Hero Margs would be one of my
Sliding.
future guests, but
That's stick.
I feel like my stick is going to stick to the ice. In this idea.
Sounds painful.
only if you're wet.
I don't feel like this is going to work out.
Do you have a foreskin? Because you probably won't after that.
Yeah, exactly. Oof.
But sorry, where were you with your little tirade there?
Oh, no, just the thing is that okay, so there's a whole bunch of problems in this country that 99% of the country agrees A, it's a problem, and B, this is a solution. Like usually there's like something extra they also want to do. And it's like, okay, yeah, that we'll get to that in a moment, but let's do the first thing. So like if we're all going to sit around at a table and the question is, well, what do you want to have? And one guy wants to have, the tacos, the other guy wants to have the steak, the other guy wants to have
I'm a vegan.
The goddamn Mugu guy pan. Whatever you want, that's great. But here's the question. Do we all want water? Yes. I mean, I'm not saying you got to drink it, but are you okay with us putting a glass of water in front of your place? Is that fine?
While we talk about what we want to eat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Look at the menu,
Teph
think
loves-
about stuff, we'll work out stuff. But like, let's at least put the water out. So there's a million things we all agree on. So like, for example, should we allow a murderer to be released into your community? Somebody who's convicted of murder, and should we just let him out into the street? Is that a thing? That's
your
there's
camera's
going to be
on.
Yeah.
there's
I
going to
saw
be
that.
somebody
All right.
that wants to have the murderer released, but that's going to be like one guy. Okay, fuck him. That 99% of the population is going to say, we have families. We don't want to have a convicted murderer walking around. And keep in mind, I'm talking about a guy who, hasn't served his time properly, and that might.
Oh,
seem
you
like
mean
an
like
odd
Santoya Brown?
Yeah, these things are happening.
Central Park 5?
Yeah, so you see all kinds of nutty stuff like this. So,
Yeah.
for example, you got a guy who is asking for refugee status in the United States. He's a known felon. Wherever he's coming from. So it's like, man, you're not the one who needs to be protected. Other people need to be protected from you. I'm not going to let you in the country. Fuck you. I'm going to let your victims into the country if any of them are alive. Maybe, but this is the stuff that isn't controversial. But we don't talk about it. The conversation gets shut down before we can agree on all the things that we already agree on.
Because you can't even talk to the other side.
Yeah,
Otherwise you're
you can't even have the conversation.
Let the serial killer in.
Right? It's
I
crazy.
think for us that's what's really frustrating too. Like,
Yeah,
it really is much different up here.
Well, I mean, that's rider bills for you.
Oh, there's all kinds of stuff.
Rider bills should really be abolished. I don't give a shit if it has anything to do with getting bipartisan support for a bill. Rider bills should be illegal.
Right. Oh, I can definitely see an argument against them. I can definitely see it.
Because that's how you get all the crazy shit that you were talking where
sneaked in.
these other things get totally sneaked in, and then that makes the bill completely untenable.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, we're not going to do it unless this thing is involved with it. Well, that has nothing to do with the issue. Well, we don't care anyway.
Right.
We're jerks.
It's the holding hostage of issues that we all agree on in return for getting something unreasonable. So, like, are we going to buy milk at the store this week? Not unless you agree to up my hooker and cocaine budget. It's like, no, we both agree we're going to have milk. We'll talk about the hooker and cocaine thing separately. Like, no, there will be no milk until
I'm not even going to talk about milk until you address the cocaine.
No milk until I get my dick wet.
Pretty much, yeah. And that's kind of ass backwards. We should.
It is a really ass backwards way of politicking.
Yeah.
And it's been this hyper partisanship that's been developing ever since the early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
At least,
I mean, there always has been throughout history. I mean, we can go back to.
Keep in mind, you had some bad stuff with Carter too. Yeah, that's the 70s.
But it hasn't been this polarized, I don't think, ever in the history of Western civilization.
No, well, because like things got really crazy with Nixon too, and I'm not trying to shit on your parade. I'm just saying this is like kind of an infinite continuum.
No, but there's a scale. There's a scale of how bad it is, and I think as far as partisanship goes right now, you can't really empirically. It's something you have to look at the events and sort of say, you know, there has been a lot of bad partisanship in the past, but I think I don't. You know, and it might just be my confirmation bias based on the 40 years of life I've had on this planet and what I've experienced. But I think it has reached a sort of crescendo right now. Not the roof by no means, but it's really bad.
Oh yeah, no, there's no question. It's super bad. It's just you look at history and you realize that you have empathy for past eras because you can see that they were dealing with the same crap we're dealing with. So, for example, I was reading a memoir by what was that faggot's name? God, it was Roman Emperor
Caligula.
No, no, it was Jesus.
Nero.
Augustus. Yeah, there we go. Augustus. Yeah, and he was bitching about grain subsidies to Roman farmers in his memoirs.
Subsidies, huh?
Yeah, he was saying, we've got this thing where we give out these grain subsidies, and we also are giving away free flour in Rome, and which was tribute from Egypt. And what he was saying is this is bad for the Roman economy. It makes it hard for Roman farmers to compete because they're competing against free grain from Egypt. And it also creates an entitlement and an expectation amongst the population of Rome that they just get free flour. And so he thought it was a bad idea and that they should get rid of it. But he said that there's no point in trying to get rid of it because some slimeball politician is going to come along and ingratiate himself to the proles by saying that if you vote for him, he'll reintroduce it. Mm-hmm. So there's no point. So he's just like, it's the suck we live in. You can have empathy for that because we've got all kinds of situations like that in the modern world where we're married to these kind of weird systemic choices that have been made over generations that have had unfortunate, unforeseen consequences, and we don't really know how to get the hell out of them. It's all over the place.
Yeah, we kind of go in cycles too.
Mm-hmm.
This tendency towards human insanity.
Yeah. No, and like the lying media or whatever, right? So you look at the yellow journalism of William Randolph Hearst, the famous line from him. Do you guys have heard the line from the Spanish-American War? You know this line, this story? No.
Nope.
I don't know.
I don't know. I thought maybe Jack would, but I don't know.
I probably
all right.
did at one point, but I forget.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, there was this hostility occurring between Spain and the United States at the time. You may remember the catchphrase from that war: "Remember the Maine." Remember the Maine? Some people remember that one. But anyway, so a U.S. ship blew up in Havana. It was later determined that what happened was it blew itself up accidentally by igniting its coal bunker. But at the time, people thought that what happened was it struck a naval mine that had been laid by the Spanish, and that would then be an act of war by the Spanish. So William Randolph Hearst, who's like, big newspaper magnate of his day, sent this guy down to Havana to draw pictures. This is in the day before photographs. So to get pictures in the newspaper, a guy would have to draw things on paper and then mail them to the newspaper, where they would then be alleged to be authentic drawings of the scene drawn by a person who was there. So the guy is this artist gets sent down to Havana to draw pictures of the war. And he shows up, and it's basically just a bunch of people hanging out in the Caribbean, sleeping under palm trees and stuff. And there's nothing happening. So he wires back and he says, yeah, there's nothing here. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. And William Randolph Hearst responds famously, "You provide the pictures, I will provide the war." Your job is not to report the news. We are making the news, bitches. We're going to war. I want to see blood and guts all over the place.
Propaganda and news.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds like CNN.
You talk about how bad it is. Think about if CNN's CEO Zucker had been caught hot micing something like that. You provide the pictures, I'll provide the war. So it's been bad before. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, I was speaking specifically just to partisanship, but you're right. There, the things like the media has been used to, spread propaganda since time immemorial. Like,
yeah,
it's nothing new. It is probably in its most dangerous incarnation currently because of just the hyperconnectivity across the globe to most places. Obviously, there are exceptions to the rule, like North Korea and China, where I can't just talk to somebody there, but I can talk to Jack, who's in the United States. I can talk to Alex, who's over in the UK, just instantly.
Right.
Yeah, they've also made it more difficult for us to communicate in different ways too. Like, across the board, especially given like certain countries right now. Like, I'm glad that we still have Hong Kongs on, people from Hong Kong on Twitter, who can.
Yeah, they can still connect to the internet at large. Yeah.
But that's one of those things that they're trying to cut us all off. And it's one of those things that's really kind of scary, because like that's kind of one of the few benefits was actually being able to communicate with people, because you could refer to stories if you knew someone from somewhere else. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean that the story wasn't true, but like they might have a greater understanding of what the communication is.
Like take what's going on in Iran right now. Everything that's being reported from the news outlets, I'm somewhat still skeptical about, because I don't know with any certainty what is true or not, whether or not it is a false flag or who's involved or whatever. I have to give them some certain level of trust, but then I can make a final decision, like with Trump's press conference this morning, saying, okay, well, we're not going to war. We're going to, use economic force. Then I can sort of be a little bit more optimistic that the stuff that I read was a little bit more of the truth. Because if there was that underlying narrative to just go to war, I'd be a lot more skeptical, because he's showing through his action restraint in the face of basically getting spat on,
Yep.
I still don't know for any certainty what reports are what's going on with the plane that was shot down, or this or that or anything.
Wait.
I have to take it at face value, and yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Okay.
Oh yeah.
It's not making all the. Okay, it's being weird. Sorry.
Sounds
You're
good.
fine.
No. Sounds good now. Yeah. Don't be sorry. It's okay. But yeah. The media is a powerful tool, like most tools, and we just have to be weary about who wields the power with that tool.
I'd say never ever trust breaking news and wait until the news has gotten a little bit stale.
Yeah.
Because if it bleeds, it bleeds, and they're going to sensationalize everything.
Because it's an old saying, that lies make their way across the globe before the truth has time to strap its boots on. Well, that's still a bit of an aged statement, and at this point, it's more like lies can make their way across the globe before anyone knows that there is a truth. There's
like the lie that the newest Star Wars movie is actually Star Wars.
Lies, of course, are more infectious because, for one thing, a lie is a fantasy, so you can tailor it to be as salacious as possible. Whereas the truth always has kind of a banal element to it because it's just the real world, and it's generally not as exciting as maybe you'd want it to be. And then the other thing is, because there's no need to verify anything, you just run with it. The truth is A, banal, and B, has this sort of slowness about it where everything has to get checked. But if you don't have to check and it can be as salacious as possible, then, well, how can you compete with that?
Yep.
Did you hear the latest gossip? Oh my God, it's so delicious.
Exactly.
It's just as infectious in the political world. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm quite glad that and I'm not glad that she's dead or anything, but the Princess Diana thing at my age, for some reason, it traumatized me a little bit. I was just like, you know what? Her kids are my age. They are exactly my age. I think William is like a couple months younger than I am. And it was just like, wow, the media kind of killed her, didn't they? I mean, it's not the only reason she died, no, but I just, it horrified me to hound people to death. And the idea that media wants to push celebrities' opinions down my throat when, like, that's been my mindset since the get-go. I'm really grateful for, I'm not glad she's dead. I'm sorry she's dead because, like, nobody should lose their mother that young, but... But
and I will, as much as we rag on communism, because we can, for the most part, agree with that. I could say the same thing about unfettered capitalism because we see that, what is the driving force behind these propaganda stories is money, and without a relative system of checks and balances, unfettered capital can be just as destructive as communism. This utopian ideal, just letting capital run rampant could be, because at the end of the day, the actual number of the dollar becomes more valuable than the person, and that's scary.
I've come to think of things though that we've kind of moved past what capitalism is and more towards corporatism, which I don't even know if that's a thing. But I've just kind of thought of it as, well, if capitalism is about capital, it seems like we're in a world where your money only matters up to the point to where you already have a reputation to work off of.
Yeah,
because people don't want to deal with you if you don't have a reputation.
I don't know if that's true because you see companies that come from nowhere and therefore had no reputation prior to coming from someplace. Well, no. So
the product or service can be so powerful that it creates a need in an otherwise vacuum.
Right. So, 90% of corporations are dead in 10 years. Corporations, generally speaking, don't actually live as long as most people think they do. There's some that go on for hundreds of years, but the overwhelming majority of corporations don't actually live very long. It's a hard knock life being a corporation. They don't live as long as people do, for one thing. People live much longer than corporations do, on average.
No, they base the entirety on the small snippet that they see from the Amazons and the Googles of the world, and they think every corporation's like that.
But even those are not as immortal as people think they are. People were saying at one point that nothing would overshadow the great and mighty General Motors. That General Motors would be this economic titan that would live eternally because nothing would be able to compete with its economies of scale.
Mm-hmm.
And about 5 years after that, General Motors started to eat dick. And people were like, okay, but my theory is still good, but it's IBM is what is actually a better example, and IBM will be this economic titan that will never be overshadowed. And then it immediately ate dick. Damn it. And so you see a lot of this stuff. What you have to really do is actually look at corporations and look at them kind of like organisms, like entities into themselves, and don't just look at the big successful ones. Look at all of them collectively, just as a species. And what you'll see is they are in a hard scrabble life. They're fucking alley cats. And some of them do
their main competition is innovation and new technologies. I mean, look at like you use the General Motors thing.
Mm-hmm.
Other corporations came along, refined the technology, offered
Mm-hmm.
a better, cheaper product.
Mm-hmm.
Boom, because of technology, because they innovated. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but as corporations develop, they show homeostasis properties, the sort of thing you start to see. If you will forgive the woo-woo with this, with the analogizing a corporation to an organism. When you look at organisms, they go through like sort of an initial phase of growth until they arrive at kind of their adult mass, and what ultimately happens is that there is a balance between the amount of energy that the organism requires just to sustain itself, to maintain its various systems, and what energy is left to grow any larger than it already is. And so you'll see with because there are different types of creatures. There are some creatures that will grow until they hit this point, and then there's like human beings where no matter what we consume, we're not going to get bigger than a certain. You're just going to get fat. But there are other species that will just get bigger if they can. And the thing is, they stop at a certain point because the burden of maintaining their internal organisms or systems is it consumes whatever energy they would otherwise have to grow, and so they just stop growing. All the energy just goes into maintenance.
Yeah.
And major corporations, you see a similar thing where there's this burst of growth when the corporation is young, and then once it has kind of obtained its place in the market, it then just sits there and rides on the stock market.
Yeah,
so
but
the
that's
stock market
because
goes up
we
2%.
have outside influences like checks and balances, regulations, those kinds of things that affect these directly, so that a company can't continually like let's go back to the medical industry.
Right.
That's more of a base need. Not everybody needs a car. Everybody needs healthcare at some point or another.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That industry could, without checks and balances, just continually grow and grow and grow and be so capitalistic that it would destroy its own consumer base and consume itself, to use like your organism analogy, but it would be so damaging to let it get to that point, hence the need for the checks and balances, right?
One thing to be careful about with this is to not conflate the damage that's done by existing regulations. So one of the things that allows the medical industry to do what it is already doing, and would also allow it to do what you're talking about in your doomsday scenario, is that it has these regulations that prevent anybody from just competing with them. So let's say,
I would consider that's over-regulation.
Well, sure, but let's say, for example, that there was we're talking about unfettered, right? So let's take away all regulation whatsoever.
Sure.
And should that occur, Well, anybody can practice medicine then. I'm not saying that they can practice it well or that it's a good idea to hire the guy who, just comes out of the back of the van.
Yeah, it
but
becomes
there's
the
no
Old
law
West
in
again.
that.
Yeah.
Right.
I love how long it took you to get that joke, though, Functional. I'm just saying.
Which one?
That Doug gave you.
I've been writing in chat.
Oh, I know you have. It's just
Anyway.
So
my brain is unrestrained autism at the moment because all I can think of, for some reason, is a meme that popped up in my head. It's a splice of Emperor Palpatine saying "unlimited" when he's going unlimited power, but it cuts unlimited and then cuts to Greta Thunberg, economic growth.
How dare you?
How dare you?
I should be in school.
What a cringe machine she is. Jeez.
But I think I know where you were going with that, Snoopy. And yeah, there has to be a balance in everything. Like, again, if we're going back to the organism analogy, that organism has to live within a balance of itself, and it's supporting organisms, or else it will be too weak and fall off and die, or it'll become too much and it will consume itself. And
corporations die all the time.
And that was my point with, as much as we want to harp on something bad, historically and evidently, bad systems of economics like socialism and its extreme communism, the same can be said for any basic sort of system that doesn't live within a balance of itself. And thankfully, with capitalism as a system of economics, not really as a governance, but economics, it has allowed for our organism, the human organism, to have the most opportunity to thrive in our own individual units, which is great. If a new economic system comes down the line that's even better, sure, maybe we can give that a try. But for now, in current human history, it's been the best to everyone, even though, there's still a lot of bad shit going on.
Yeah. Well, it's the wisdom of death, because this is a thing that you require in any healthy system over time. Is you need portions of the system to die and to be reborn on a regular basis. A problem with socialism or any kind of big government organization, bureaucracy, and they don't necessarily have to be built this way. It's just that they always are. And the way that they always build them is they build them as these immortal institutions that never change. And so what happens when they get big and bloated and stupid and corrupt?
They crumble.
Well, we have no alternative. There's no competition. So what if instead of creating one socialist organization that does X, I instead created 15? And they're redundant. Each one of them is doing the same thing. And they have to compete with each other to exist. Now, socialists would look at that and they'd say that's inefficient. Well, that's actually not true. Yes, in the short term that's inefficient, but in the long term, the big monolithic organization will itself become bloated and ridiculous. And by having lots of little scrappy guys that are always snipping at each other, over time, that's actually more efficient. And you have to create a situation where the things you build can die. You don't want to create a situation where it's too big to fail. And a big problem with a lot of this big government bureaucracy stuff is everything they build is too big to fail. They don't build anything else.
Yeah, but at their
inceptions,
they were developed as systems that could evolve and grow with the needs of the people. That's what's making Western civilization thrive.
But they weren't built with the concept of death.
No, they did, because there are ways to kill policy. They just instituted some seeds.
The institution has to die. Like your whole department.
I think we're talking too broadly. I mean, I can agree with you in certain circumstances, but I would disagree in some.
Right. So let's say we've got multiple different unions, right? So let's say we've got this is my big problem with labor unions, because I generally, like, in a broad concept, I'm okay with labor unions. I like them; they're fine. But where they get to become a problem is where they monopolize labor.
and they start throwing their weight around and becoming bullies, and
right, because it's the same problem with having a corporate monopoly, right? So it's like one corporation. It's the only corporation that sells cheese, and if you want to buy cheese, you got to buy it from Dave's Cheese Company, and exactly,
But
so
this
then
is why I think that people are clamoring not only for strong two-party systems in the West, we want a strong multi-party system. Because that, like you're saying, the root problem is competition. There's no competition. In Western politics, you mostly have the left, the right, and the pendulum just shifts back and forth and back and forth and back and forth.
That's inevitable, though. So like if you look at a British politics, where they've got multiple parties within their political system, nonetheless, there are still only two main factions, and all the little parties just enter into coalition with the two main parties. And also, most of the minor parties are obligate allies of one of the two major parties, and will not, under any circumstances.
But they can also act as bullies.
And
they can still throw their weight around.
They can, but the thing is that you can still do that within the American system as well, which is often cited as a two-party system, but it's actually more complicated than that, because the American system.
I'm just saying there has to be that competition. Right now, there's not very much competition in the DNC versus the RNC. Let's face it.
Well, no. Well, okay, so
not where it counts, not on the people who are going to vote one way or the other.
Well, okay, so within the DNC, you have a civil war between the progressives and the old guard Democrats.
Core Dems, yeah.
Yeah, and within the Republican Party, you also have a civil war between the Trump and anti-Trump faction. You also previously had a struggle between the quote establishment and the Tea Party faction. So there is a certain amount of turnover. I would say that a lot of this is a terminology problem. Rather than calling American political parties, I think it's actually more appropriate to call each political party in the United States a coalition.
A bowel movement?
You can do that too, but a coalition, because they're more complex than political parties are in other countries, where everything is more exploded. So you've got the evangelicals, for example, and you've got the hardcore, I don't know, corporate people as allies within the Republican Party. You also have with the Democrat Party, you have sometimes the union people and coal workers occasionally allying with environmentalists. Now these are in another political system, these would be people in different political parties. But in the United States, they are in the same parties, and that means that our political parties are actually more similar to coalitions in the parliamentary context. So in that sense, that's fine, because at the end of the day, when you're struggling for supremacy in the government, you're still going to only have two coalitions. It's indifferent how many parties you have.
Right, but I mean, again, in the current political landscape, in the DNC, you have the corporate Dems, who are probably the most favored, but not doing so hot. In the coalition with the what do the Bernie Sanders people call themselves?
Progressives, or social democrats.
Social Dems, yeah, Dems who are doing so well with the neolibs, with the social progressives. None of them under this coalition are doing well. So. Again, even if it's a coalition system, if there's competition, I think it breeds a healthier political landscape than if it's just so diametrically uneven that the pendulum's so far on one side. Even though things aren't as bad as has happened in history when the political pendulum shifts so far to one side. I think the right in America is actually doing a pretty decent job. Up here in Canada, they're not.
Unfortunately, you know, our left
we were
party.
constipated for 5 years. We took
And
a
don't get
shit,
me wrong,
and then we put
Snoopy.
it back up into our ass.
Yeah,
So.
don't get me wrong, Snoopy. At my core, I am a liberal. I'm, you know, a Lockean English liberal. So I look around at my own party members or people who I would normally agree with on so many things, not even 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, going, who the hell are you people? I'm just going to back away into the bushes and hopefully my conservative friends won't be so judgmental. And you know what? They're not. They're like, yeah, actually, we can agree on a whole lot of things nowadays.
It's kind of
because again, back to your very first point of I want to just sit down and have a conversation and identify these problems on an individual level. Because if we can start talking about the problems, then you know what? Your solution might not be right. My solution might not be right. But whatever we give birth to around that table might be a good solution.
Sure. And we don't need to agree to everything. We just agree on all the things we agree on.
We establish we want to have water and that we want to eat. Okay, good. Now let's talk about what we're going to order. And you know what? We might not agree at all. You might say, fuck this shit, flip the table and go, I'm getting fucking pizza. You sit here with your lo mein.
Fine.
Yeah, I think that actually makes a lot more sense for me too, because back in the day, you know, the reason I didn't really care for the Conservative Party was because quite often, even up here, you'd get the odd religious nut, and I have no interest in including religion in anything to do with politics. Like I have a lot of respect for people with their beliefs that, you know, believe what you want to believe. I just don't like it in politics.
God, no.
You know, and it's the reason why I would absolutely pull.
Once.
It's the reason I pull away from things like you know, total socialism or communism is because you're right. It is exactly like dealing with.
But you got to remember that those are economic systems.
Yes.
They're not really systems of government. Like. You know, but they tend to go. Some things tend to go hand in hand. Like when you have communism, you have to have authoritarianism because you have to control every aspect of the community.
It is a moral and ethical paradigm, though. Like it does prescribe. It has an objective notion of good and evil. It has a whole notion of right and wrong built into it, and it's all dogmatically prescribed. And you run into that with a religion now. So like you go to Islam, right? Is Islam a political system? You could say like, well, not really. It's more religion, but there's like an Islamic government thing, or like a way of doing Islamic government that Islamic people are happy with. And that's how communism does all this stuff. It first arrives at what it decides is good and evil, and then it just kind of derives what it finds acceptable on that basis from that point.
Yeah, so with Islam, it's not like Islam is a government system. However, there is a prescribed government system for Islam in their books.
Theocracy.
Yeah. So they have a so basically, if you don't have all three, the religious, government, and military aspects of Islam in power, then hashtag not real Islam.
Yeah. No, exactly. And I mean, like, so for example, are you guys familiar with Islamic banking?
No. I don't even know what Islamic banking is like, but no, I don't agree with it.
Well, sure. And so, but you know, you talk about economic systems. There is such a thing as Islamic economics, and it's not. Well, Christians used to do the same thing. There used to be Christian economics,
Jewish economics, yeah.
So for example, you know the whole conflation
Genomics.
Well, actually,
well, it's how we got banking.
In
was
medieval
from Jewish
times,
commerce, yeah. Oh.
Well, what
Middle Eastern? I should say Middle Eastern.
No. It's actually funnier than that. The Jews were a mechanism of getting around Christian banking rules.
Yep.
So under Christian banking rules in the medieval period, you were not allowed to charge interest to someone who you were giving a loan to. So that creates a problem. But it was a religious rule. But the rule did not apply if a Christian was lending to a Jewish guy, or if a Jewish guy was lending money to a Christian guy. So if you wanted to lend money to a Christian guy and you yourself are a Christian guy, what you would do is you would lend money to a Jewish guy and you'd say, can you please lend the money I just gave to you to my friend over there, the Christian guy? You would basically run your money through a Jew. And by doing that, you got around the banking rule. And so there was
laundering, right?
Yeah, I mean, basically it was. It was just like you hand the money to the Jewish guy. The Jewish guy takes, a % or whatever, and then the Jewish guy hands it over to the Christian guy that you wanted to give the money to in the first place. And any interest that the Christian guy ultimately is going to pay to you, he actually pays to the Jewish guy, and then the Jewish guy pays you because the Jewish guy owes you money. You see? That was how banking functioned under the Christian banking system, and it required that you have a small Jewish population in every financial capital, and there would be a little Jewish quarter. And what would happen is people who wanted to move money from one place to another would go in there. They would give money to the Jewish guys. The Jewish guys would give money to the other guy, and the Pope wouldn't say anything about it. The Medici got as rich as they did because they figured out how to do this without using a Jewish guy. And they built an empire on the back of that. And ultimately they bent the Christian banking rules so over the table and screwed it so raw that at a certain point the Vatican basically just gave up and they said, okay, I don't even care anymore. This is
people go.
My rules are so filthy and sticky at this point that I don't even want to look at it anymore. I'm just going to leave the room.
Hashtag I can't believe it's not Islam.
Yeah,
rules are for heathens.
So in the Islamic world, I don't think that they permitted the Jewish thing, and but I do think that they've ultimately adopted the Medici system of charging interest without actually charging interest, or actually charging interest without it being classified that way by the mullahs. But it's a whole crazy thing. But you can see the relationship between this and communism, because communism in and of itself doesn't actually have a robust economic concept. You can point out empirical flaws in Marxist economic thought, and they don't care. Now, if there were an economic system, they would care about that. That would be important. That would be a big fucking deal. But they don't.
Because under communism, there's no such thing as economics. There's no capital. There's no money. You just do things for each other.
Yeah, exactly. And we just presume that they're going to do that, contrary to all evidence to the contrary.
Jack, you've been quiet.
Hey,
yeah,
Sinope, you'll appreciate this. It's kind of weird. At my fundamental core, I still believe from each his abilities to each his needs, and yet socialism and communism need to burn. Just get a fleet of helicopters, please.
Well, I think I would go more with the ancient line out of the Bible on this one, without giving any particular credence to the Christian religion or whatnot. But the line of "Those who do not work, neither shall they eat."
Well, yeah. I mean, to an extent, I think that I think we should give them the very bare minimum to actually survive. Perhaps gruel or grit. Perhaps the
No, but it's a general principle.
Huh?
I'm not interested in having people starve. I mean, unless our society is really that hard up. But given that we have the wealth that we do, we don't have to make that choice.
Well, I mean, because here's the thing. Right?
That's the thing, though. Because we are wealthy nations, we can afford to enact social programs that are a net benefit to society as a whole.
Well,
they
make us feel good.
They might be mismanaged, but the intent is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
This is going to sound really weird, I guess, but even a non-productive civilian is an asset, because they could become productive in the future or become an important asset in wartime.
Can I hug them every once in a while and feel their kidneys?
So like you said, I have no interest in seeing people starve to death. At that, exactly. I really don't want anyone to starve to death, because if everybody survives and we manage to keep them, they may be a great asset when I don't know, Iran invades.
Well, I think you
because then you have meat shields. Come on.
Well, I mean, the other thing is that we really should take more seriously the idea of helping people become the best version of themselves that they're going to be. So, an example of that is, so I'm from the troubled city of Los Angeles, and we have 60,000 homeless people camping in tents in my city right now, and you know, I want to help these people genuinely, but I'm not helping them by enabling them to squat on my sidewalks.
Yeah,
that's not
because what percentage of those 60,000 are from your community?
Well, not only that, let's say that I had
people are encouraging that kind of behavior.
Absolutely, but let's just look at how I help these people. Let's say I take these people as my brothers, and my brothers and sisters, and I want good things for them, genuinely, best possible outcome. Well, first I have to acknowledge a fair number of them are unfortunately insane, and it's not curable insanity. They're one flew over the cuckoo's nest gone.
Yeah.
Those people need to be in an asylum. That's the best place for them. They need a roof over their head. They need clean clothing. They need good dental health care. You know, because they're in pain. They're suffering. They're degenerating out there. They need to be cleaned of all the parasites and diseases they're giving each other. They also need to be shielded from hardcore street narcotics. That's not good for them. They need to be kept away from people that will exploit and abuse them. I don't want them to sleep on a street corner. I want them to sleep in a bed. But unfortunately, the people that are just genuinely nuts forever, for life, the best outcome for them. I mean, and think, what would you want for yourself if you unfortunately were insane, incurably just crazy? Mm-hmm. Would you want to be left to wander the streets, babbling to yourself?
Well, here's a thought, right? You can think. You know, you're lucid right now. You're you can think clearly, and you can see who you could become, and say, I don't want to be that. But when you are that, it's different. Your perspective has changed. When you're actually living in that world, you don't want to be fucking dead.
No, I'm not saying kill the guy.
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm not saying kill him. No, I wouldn't want somebody to kill me. I don't want to be wandering.
I thought this was going into that direction of, hey, if I ever go crazy, just put an end to me.
No.
I think we mean like putting people back into the mental.
Jack, you can eat the bugs. You can eat the bugs, Jack.
Is it a problem if you guys gave me Jell-O and some pudding to eat, and I got some finger paints that I got to play with, and there was a nice garden where I could walk around and stare at flowers all day?
As long as you're not throwing your shit at people.
Well, maybe I'm going to do that every once in a while. But the thing is that I'm in a safe place. I'm in a safe environment. And there are people there that are trained to handle me and are acting for my best interests. And frankly, that's where I would need to be. I need to be in an asylum. So first off, you have to look at the homeless population. All the people that are crazy need to be in an asylum. Just straight up. Boom. We had 500,000 Americans. We had 500,000 Americans in insane asylums in the 1950s. Today, we have 50,000. Okay, our population has since then doubled, which means by the 1950 rules, we should have roughly 1 million Americans. Which, think of the population, 325 million, right? So, would you say that one out of every 325 Americans, one of them's crazy? Yeah, I mean it seems like, if anything, a low number.
Just look at Fox.
Exactly. So you have those guys, and they just and look, you're not doing them any favors by letting them walk around. They're going to be shitting on this. A lot of them also just go to jail, you know, because they break a law one place or another out of desperation or confusion, and then they find themselves
3 hots in a cot. Yeah.
Then they find themselves in a prison surrounded by murderers. And in a very dangerous environment where everybody's sending all these little signals like don't step on my territory or I'm going to shank you. Well, I'm crazy. I can't process your thing. What you're talking about is very stressful for a sane person. I'm insane. I can't deal with this. I'm going to go over and slap the biggest dude in there in the face, not even understanding that means I just killed myself.
I think it's funny that
I need to interrupt this line of thought just to make note that I just got an email. I just got an email from a porn site that says, "Imagine yourself inside."
Yes. Yes.
Great choice of words.
What were you gonna say, Jack?
I forget.
we were talking about insane asylums.
Himself inside.
Insane asylums. We were talking about that.
I was going to say that people talk about 4D chess with Donald Trump, but I think that sometimes it's not 4D chess as much as it is accidentally walking into the wrong room and seeing that everything's fucked up. And so when the mass shooting started happening and Donald Trump started talking about reopening the asylums, I thought that was friggin' brilliant, because they've been closed for so long, and that's where a lot of our homeless problems come from, is when Kennedy shut down all those asylums. And the problems they were running back into back then were that the places were overcrowded. They were really, really overcrowded, and that's where you hear all the nightmarish stories from. And then all of a sudden, what's the solution to this? Shut them all down.
Yeah.
Put all those people outside into the world where they're totally gonna be fine. And then you notice that the homeless population suddenly skyrockets. Oh, that's totally unrelated.
Yeah, and we have made tons of medical innovation to allow some of those people who were traditionally kept in asylums to lead relatively productive lives and be valuable members of society, which is great. But there still remains that there's still a lot of people that cannot or have yet be cured, and we do have to protect them from themselves and society at large.
Absolutely.
And I would consider that a necessary evil of Western civilization. Sure.
Yeah. And that's the problem with this whole homeless thing, because we've got all these different types of people, and they're all being treated like they're one group. So you've got the crazy people. That's one group. The next group you have to deal with is people who have genuine economic hardship and want to work. And you can't conflate the crazy people with the people that have genuine economic hardship and want to work, because the crazy guy, you can give him a job any day of the week. It's not going to do anything. You can't help him by giving him a job.
But that mom sleeping in her car waiting for a phone call to get a job.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You can help those people. You can get them you can give them a subsidized apartment. You can get them some job training. You can do all kinds of stuff. And absolutely, you should do that. I think that is an investment that would pay off on average. That we would see a return on that ultimately as society, or possibly even just directly in the tax rolls. And then you have the third group, and the third group is hobos. Now, hobos are people that do not have a genuine economic hardship and are not crazy, but they're still sleeping on a park bench. And hobos need to get hit with a water hose and told to fuck off.
They just don't give any fucks. Yeah.
Well, no, they're people who are they've chosen this lifestyle. It's a lifestyle
they just don't give a fuck. Like, society, fuck it, I don't care.
Yeah. Now, if you're doing that, you are you don't need my help, and B, you are causing a problem. And so the old rule that we had with hobos in the United States, and I think this is sufficient, is that there was like a part of town where it was understood you could be a hobo and no one would mess with you. There was just like kind of a hobo part of town. And the idea was, if you left that part of town and kept being a hobo, there would be a problem. You might get picked up by the cops. Somebody might punch you in the face. I don't know. It would have been something that would have made you go back to the part of the town where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, undesirable, stay here and no problems, leave.
Well, I'm okay with you being anywhere you want in the town, but you can't be a barbarian walking through town shitting all over our nice parks.
Yeah.
So if you want to do that in town, I've very graciously set aside a part of town where you can do this. I don't even have to do that. This is a fucking compromise. You can be here. It'll be near the rail areas. So you guys can ride the rails, and all that nonsense. And that's fine. Whatever. You're going to probably go out into some rural farm somewhere and murder a farmer, because that's what hobos do. And because that's what they are. They're like neo-gypsies. They're terrible. But the thing is that person is not to be conflated with the person with a genuine economic hardship or with the person who is crazy. There's no reason to put the hobo in a mental asylum. He's not crazy. He's made a choice. As an adult, he has decided to live this way. And that's fine. But his choices have to have consequences. And likewise, it would be a waste of resources to give him an apartment or something. What is he going to do with it? He doesn't want an apartment. He's gonna hitchhike to the other side of the country on any given Tuesday. You don't know what he's going to do. So you break it down like that, and we could actually start helping these people. And in every one of these situations, I think these are non-controversial things. You see some guy just talking to himself on a street corner. You're telling me that most people would agree that we should just let him go and just wander the sidewalks, babbling to himself? That guy's a mental patient. Imagine if that was your brother, right, or you, and you were that fucking out to lunch. Like I don't know. It's hard to empathize with this because we've never been that out of our mind. But maybe you've had a bad drug trip. Maybe you've been really drunk. What would you say to a friend that released you onto the street incoherent drunk, unable to defend yourself into a dangerous part of town? What is he your friend? No.
I think I think a socialist would look at that situation and suggest that we give the crazy person a house.
But he can't. He's just going to sit there and talk to the spoons.
Yeah.
He can't feed himself. He's going to have a diary written in his own shit on the walls.
But you don't understand the reason these people are homeless isn't because they have mental problems. It's because the man is keeping them down.
Right. No, I appreciate the disingenuous arguments, and I agree with you that is definitely a large part of the rhetoric that goes on around these things. But if you actually talk to any of the healthcare professionals that are interacting with the homeless population, they unanimously will say that enormous number of these people, the overwhelming majority of them apparently, have severe mental problems. So that has to be the first. If you want to help these people, actually, not just virtue signaling.
Yeah.
Not just, doing something so you can feel good about yourself on television or something, but actually help another human life. They need to be in an asylum. It's the only thing to do. There's no other option. I mean, it's that or Soylent Green. And I don't want Soylent Green. That's a fucked up answer. I'm going to go with the asylum. That's what I'm comfortable with.
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh when you say Soylent Green, but it's just the wording just makes me giggle. Horrible.
We can send it down to the Venezuelans.
I always thought it was hilarious that there was actually a company that called themselves Soylent.
I know. That's what makes it so beautiful. Is you look at it, you're like, I'm questioning you now.
Didn't anyone just, hey, I just wanted to let you know that your company is named after something that isn't soy-based.
They did that on purpose. Here's a more creepy name choice. There's an experimental biotech company that helps people. It helps revitalize old people by giving them transfusions of young blood. And there's actually some medical evidence that actually that is helpful to old people. It helps to get young to actually get young blood in their old body, because the blood they produce is more sedentary and lethargic, whereas the younger blood cells are more active, and it actually it gives them a little bit of a pep. In any case, the name of the company is Ambrosia. Now, for those
that sounds like
unfamiliar,
a dystopian nightmare.
Ambrosia is the name of the nectar of the gods. It was the wine the gods drank.
So crack
the
open
company-
a baby skull and
the company is selling young blood, and it's calling itself basically the nectar of the gods.
Doesn't that sound like
That's
if
the
you're
most
watching a
unfortunate
dystopian a dystopian movie where
Yeah.
it's like
the
name of the Ambrosia's got to be taken down, you know?
Yeah. No, it sounds like a 1980s evil corporation in a movie. You know, that asshole that like what's your business plan there, Mr. Evil CEO? I'm gonna fuck all the children until they bleed from the eyes. What? That doesn't. How are you making money doing that? It's like that's a strange business plan you have.
Well, China did it.
How did you? Well, I mean, are Fong Guang practitioners even people?
Oh.
God.
Cryptic's not here anymore, I bet. Or if he is, he'll be like, "That's racist." He's our guy who fled from communism. So
Yeah. Oh well, I mean, I'm obviously joking.
we know that. I laughed.
The CCP in China are monsters.
Oh yeah.
They're monsters.
Oh God, yeah. Listen. I don't like Muslims, and I've jokingly said bomb the Kaaba, but they don't deserve to be locked up in prisons and then have what's the word? Fuck.
Well, they're being tried. They're basically going to jail for the crime of being Islamic.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't go that far. I mean, if you're actually like doing terrorism or whatever, that's a different story. But if you're just a guy who went to a madrasa and kneels to Mecca 3 times a day, I don't want to put you in jail.
Well, I think it's 8 times.
Whatever the correct number is.
It's whatever the correct number is honestly way too fucking many. But
yeah, well, I don't care. If you're behaving yourself, the thing that I guess is troubling with Islam is did you know that that mass shooting that happened in San Bernardino? Did you know that one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, well, so this is a young Muslim couple.
Mm-hmm.
Were living there, and they they had a job working at, I think it was like a call center or something there, and their coworkers had recently thrown them a baby shower. So it's a party because she got pregnant, and they were like, oh well, we know all this baby stuff is expensive, and every one of us bought like one little baby thing for you, and so here's this giant thing of baby stuff, and we want you to have a healthy, successful family, and good luck and all that jazz. Anyway, so they got some guns, and they killed all their coworkers.
What?
After the baby shower? Yeah, that's the people they murdered.
What the?
Their coworkers, their coworkers threw them a baby shower, and then they killed them all. So that I have a very hard time with that. I don't. It seems profoundly unfair and unjust to attack people that had shown you warmth and
How dare you be nice to us? Die.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, and certainly, to in such a human way of saying, oh, you're having a child. That's wonderful. Let me help you with your child. I mean, that's an ancient ritual, ancient tribal ritual of let me help you with your child.
This is like the ultimate evolution of that Lonely Island song. Throw it on the ground.
Kind of, yeah.
Oh, jeez.
No, so to spit in the face of an ancient binding ritual that goes back easily tens, if not hundreds of thousands of years. I can't even begin to empathize with that. I don't understand. Like, there are people I dislike. I can understand, like, let's say I was a person in Nazi Germany, and I hated the Third Reich, and I wanted to do bad things to Hitler's Germany. my target for my ire is not going to be the people that threw me a goddamn baby shower.
Yeah.
I'm going to find somebody else to be shitty to.
Yeah.
But to literally pick the people that threw you a baby shower?
I remember the words I was going to use. Having non-consensual organ arbitrage.
Yeah, non-consensual organ arbitrage. Yeah, no, it's gross.
All right, well, so I've been doing this since 3, so I was gonna start winding down pretty soon.
Yeah, let's do that.
I know that you still play games on Discord, Will. I don't know what you've been playing lately, but if you want to mention one or two that you like,
I played the Outer Worlds recently. I think everybody played that. I guess that's old hat at this point. I don't know.
Might be.
Play the same.
I need to touch up on seeing you again. It makes me think I got to touch up on that old space sim again. Elite Dangerous.
What, Elite Dangerous?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they need to come up with some fucking updates for that thing.
That's true. They're holding off all updates until they get that really big update coming. Though I can respect that.
Yeah, they're releasing carriers, and unfortunately, and I don't agree with this, but the carriers are non-playable entities, but you can move them. So you buy them, and they move about when you order them to move, but you cannot directly control them. And I disagree with that. I think I should be able to directly control the carrier.
Yeah, that does sound. That sounds kind of lame.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah. But here's one thing that does make that good is that you can expand outside of the bubble now more easily. So as it is, when you leave the bubble of explored space, you can't dock your ship to get repairs and stuff. But if your carrier is out there, then you can dock with that wherever. And
that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm back on board.
Yeah. So it's mobile docking bay. And if your friends have docked in the carrier and the carrier moves, then when they leave the carrier, they're wherever the carrier happens to be. So you get to bring them with you. Hey, Dave, remember when you docked with my carrier a year ago and you haven't played since then? You have no idea where I've brought you.
That sounds ominous.
Welcome to the Kalian galaxy. What? I thought there was only one galaxy. Well, there was. Then I went to the other one.
Yeah, it's one of those ones I'll have to bring up later with you, Will. Is so one of the games that Functional and I have in common is one of those ones that you guys have played before. So I know you guys don't play it anymore, so that's fine.
Oh, what was
that? Conan. Surprisingly.
Conan.
Oh yeah, I fucking love Conan. I gotta play that some more too.
My only problem with Conan at this point is that they have never figured out how to implement slaves properly. I find that to be offensive.
I don't know. They have jobs and they kind of do them.
Oh please! I show up in my little my camp and they're like, oh, we're out of rocks. I'm like, okay, you're slaves. Go get rocks. No. You get rocks. Personally, what? No, I'm not. No, you're a slave. You guys get the rocks. They're like, okay, well, the other thing we need to do is wood. Someone needs to chop wood. Like, this is another thing slaves do. No. You need to do that. What? No. This is not. Those are stereotypical.
I'm supposed to be going on epic adventures. You motherfuckers cut the trees and dig
Yeah.
up the rocks.
Yeah, and then they're like, oh, feed us. We can't feed ourselves.
I'm getting my whip.
I think one of you guys needs to be on, I don't know, alligator hunting duty where you can eat alligator meat. I don't care what you people eat. Fuck you.
Eat each other.
Yeah, right. Like, learn how to slave properly. I should have people that are
at least what they should do is they should have they should make it so that there's wood cutting stone. There's like wood cutting stations and whatnot. You can put some slaves to do that job.
Yeah.
Seed gatherers to make more gruel.
Yeah. exactly, bare minimum, and that way they can self-sustain and produce stuff, and then I never have to do any of that shit ever again.
Hell,
I'm
if they
sure
could
there's a
do
mod
it in
for it.
in Warcraft 1 with peons and like they can do it in a game as advanced as Conan
Sure.
comparatively.
And you could,
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm
you
sure
could
there's
get
a
more.
mod for it. It's just
No,
No,
really.
no, there's not. No,
it requires
Oh.
too much core coding for the
I mean the way you
behaviors.
described it, it should have been super easy, but no.
No, because I know there's a mod out there. I've used it that adds entirely new animals and gives them new pens and new roles and everything. So it's
Yeah.
like
Is there a slave that generates wood?
not part of that mod. I think it was just an expansion to the things you can do with animals.
Yeah. I want it. I want slaves that do slave things, like chop wood.
But do the
And
animals fall off of cliffs?
They can. I pushed an
Yeah.
elephant off a cliff once.
I mean, yeah. I actually got one of my friends to fly halfway across the map. I think he landed in a completely different biome ultimately. I pissed a rhino off while he wasn't paying attention. It was like the king rhino, something like that. And I ran it right at him while he wasn't paying attention, just on his back. I was like, la 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 la, don't pay attention to me. What? And so he's standing there, and then all of a sudden he goes, wham, and he's airborne. And so that's how I push people around.
That sounds funny, actually.
I find the thing that charges you, and then I piss it off and I run it around the map.
Jesus. But yeah, no, I love Conan in all of its flawed glory. So
well, I like that they've added horses. I think that's good. But
yes.
they need to allow me to ride most of the large animals. Like I want to ride a giant scorpion.
I want to ride a crocodile.
Because here's the thing, Conan is sure it's like a savage and all that stuff, but it's also a fantasy world. So you have to have mythical creatures and stuff. And what's more mythical than Conan riding, I don't know, some giant monster animal?
Yeah.
I mean, and the monster animal can be fighting him the whole time. It doesn't matter. He doesn't care. I'm stronger than you. I'm going to punch you in the head until you do what I say.
Well, adding some other mounts would be nice, but yeah.
I kind of got to get going soon, so.
Yeah. Do you want to show your channel real quick? Like, get one out. That sounded horrible. I'm sorry.
Yeah. You can watch my stream, my game stream on Tuesday nights, 11:30 p.m. EST. It's Jackbox Games. If you watch this channel, odds are you probably already know what it is. Come by next week. We're gonna have couples night for Quippers United. Function and his lady Elwin will be joining us along with Moonshock and his wife, and Shiogorath and his wife.
And Terry and
oh yes, and Terry and Frosted Glass are gay.
At least for one night, even though they haven't consented to this, and one of them's from Australia and the other one's from the US.
Yes. Love knows no boundaries.
Right? So they do Quiplash, they do a couple of Jackbox games. I'm not gonna list them all, but yeah, you guys should go watch. How about yourself, Teph? I haven't seen you in a while. I know you still do Twitch, and I know the occasional YouTube stream you do. I know you're kind of pulling from YouTube, but
I'm in a hiatus at the moment. I've been in a hiatus for 3+ months. I'm not sure where to direct people, but I'm gonna start doing things again, I guess, soonish.
Yeah.
Odd little tidbit here. No, you know what? That's not important. Yeah, I'll get around to doing something. It's just I'm
no worries. Take your time. It's not a bad idea to take a break from it, because the whole thing is frustrating.
Oh yeah, no, I totally, yeah, it totally is. For the longest time there, I was really involved in like keeping up with politics and shit. And then I just got really tired and said, you know what? All I want to do is play games and shit on communists and anarchists. Fucking anarchists. I still don't know which is worse, a commie or an Annie.
It depends on which one of them's trying to kill you. If the anarchist isn't trying to kill you, then the communist is the bigger problem.
Yeah, but the problem is the implicit problem with anarchism, because yeah, that anarchist might not be wanting to kill you, but if he creates an anarchist state and, well, you know, a lack of a state, then there's no centralized law, and then there's no one to stop, I don't know, Jeff from down the street from killing me.
Oh yeah, but if they're ineffective, I don't mind ineffective people. So if you're talking to some goofball who's like, I think that everyone should only eat ice cream, you're like, okay, well.
Oh well, hey, you know what? Then
that's not going to happen.
Here, I'll use my direct as a shout out to Jeremiah Harding. He's a character. He's a anarcho coalitionist.
Oh,
he's a good guy, but I can't say that he's smart.
Sounds like you're not being very complimentary of his grasp of.
No, but you know what? His Twitter's good for a laugh if you believe in law and order of any kind.
I see. Yeah.
All right. So Functional's got his stream on Saturday. I think you talked about that already, though, didn't you? Or have you gone yet, Functional?
Sure. Yeah.
Can I recommend
people know where to find me on Saturday.
As a political argument that you steal his bike?
I'm still cranky and I gotta go make dinner, so.
Yeah, no worries. All right. Okay,
Keep it
so we're gonna
short
call
and
it,
sweet.
guys. So like this is my second stream, and this one went late. So next week I have to probably make sure that I keep my streams a little in order, because StreamYards is dictated how many hours I have. So, but anyway, guys, have a good night and take it easy. And I know I think the Lords of the Night are going right now, so go say hi to those guys, and maybe we'll get some baby time. It is Satsu's night.
Yeah, he's got a baby on stream.
Alrighty.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
And